Good morning. This school board operational meeting of the School Board of Broward County, Florida is now called to order. Ms. Good is going to bring us the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in a moment here, we're going to see the dynamic principal at Panther Run Elementary, Miss Elaine Safe, along with her students and Miss Rolak. So hopefully we'll have the screen up here in a second. There they are. Oh, good morning, Miss Safe. I like the hat.
Good morning. Thank you. This morning we will do the pledge, and then our kids in capes, Miss Rolex and Miss Pinto's group, will perform Kindness Road.
Excellent. So if everyone could please stand.
Wait, where are they going? All right, ready? Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead, Joseph. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more. I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more.
I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can no more. Which is really, really cool, yeah. Giving back don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you nothing. Giving back don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you nothing. Kindness is my factor, helping others matter. You can go and ask them, giving back is groovy. Come on now, let's do this. Toy cars and moving, making big improvements. AJIC movement. Giving back don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you nothing. Giving back don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you nothing. I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more. I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more. Hats down, capes on, living like a rock star, granting wishes, shining like the North Star. Hey, I see, gotta have it all, making things a factor, riding down paths like the pay it forward actors. Got no stress 'cause I love giving back. I'm a kids in capes, and you know it's all that wish I could get. Much more down the kindness road. I wanna give till I can't no more. I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more. I'm gonna pay it forward down kindness road. I'm gonna give till I can't no more.
Thank you very much, Miss Safe, and the whole Miss Rolak's class. And if everybody heard the words "Pay It Forward," that's Panther Run's theme all year long. They're always paying it forward and being kind to others, and it starts from their school leader, Miss Safe. And again, they will be at the Kindness event on the 8th on Saturday from 11 to 2 at CB Smith Park. So thank you, Miss Safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Good and Panther Run. That was an awesome way to start the morning. I hope it's that exciting all day long. So with that, in order for the meeting to operate within an appropriate professional environment at this time, we respectfully request that all cell phones and other electronic devices be either turned off or put into the silence mode. Please step out of the boardroom if you do need to answer a cell phone or a call, as talking on your cell phone during the meeting is not permitted. Ms. Rupert has requested a moment of silence for a 7th grade student from Crystal Lake Middle and a 10th grade student from Deerfield Beach High. Ms. Rupert.
Thank you. It's with a very heavy heart this morning asking for the moment of silence for Adrian Nunez, a 7th grade student at Crystal Lake Middle School who was a victim of a very serious car accident. Additionally, we've also lost another member of the Deerfield Beach High School football team, Terrence Jackson, who lost his life this past weekend. Terrence was a 10th grade student at Deerfield Beach High School, where he was a valued member of the football team. He will be deeply missed, his teammates, friends, and teachers. Our thoughts and prayers are with both these students' families and the community all around them and all who love them. Thank you. A moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rupert. As we prepare to begin our operational meeting, we'd like to take a moment to remind ourselves that our vision is to educate today's students to succeed in tomorrow's world. Our purpose today and every day is to achieve this goal. May the chair please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the following meeting, January 14th, 2020, special expulsions.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Good. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as listed, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the minutes are approved. Are there any changes to the agenda, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the following changes to speakers. Karen Gusta withdrawn, Tracy Parrish withdrawn, Anne Marie Pierpont added. For board items G3, personnel recommendations for non-instructional appointments and leaves for the 2019-2020 school year, that's a revised. BB2, board member travel request, Anne Murray's travel request to attend the Council of the Great City Schools Annual Legislative Policy Conference on March 20 to 24th, 2020. That is added. CC1, Policy 5.9, anti-bullying, revised. EE4, piggyback recommendation of $500,000 or greater for light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles, revised. EE5, piggyback recommendation of $500,000 or greater for school buses is revised. I2, administrative complaint, Charles J. Zimmerman, withdrawn. And K4, budget calendar fiscal year 2020 to 2021 is revised. Madam Chair, we have no further proposed changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Runcie. I have reviewed each of the changes, and the changes to the agenda proposed by the superintendent are accepted by the chair after being determined that good cause has been established for said changes. May the chair please have a motion and a second to close the agenda.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Good, second by Ms. Brinkworth. All in favor of closing the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The school board will now consider the agenda items in the following order. The school board will first identify any consent items, those are our single-letter items, on the agenda that will be pulled for separate discussion. All the remaining consent items that were not pulled for separate discussion will then be approved by consent. The school board will next consider G3, followed by any other G items that were pulled from the agenda for discussion. After the G items are considered, the school board will proceed in accordance with the agenda's lettering system. The school board will consider any consent items, which are single-letter items, pulled for discussion for a given letter, and then consider any open items, the double-letter items, for that same letter. The meeting agenda has been modified to correspond with this order. So our next item of business this morning is the consent agenda. This is the time board members advise the chair of those items they wish to address. Subsequent to this, the chair will ask if any members of the public would like to have an item pulled which has not already been pulled by a board member. All those items not pulled for separate consideration will then be approved under the consent agenda. For the following consent agenda items, are there any board members that would like to discuss? First, our G3 item is automatically pulled. So are there any other E items?
Or G items.
I'm sorry, G items, yes. Any G items, Ms. Brinkworth?
G2 and G4, please.
G what?
G2 and G4.
G2 and 4, thank you.
Thank you.
Mine was the E.
Okay, so I will come back to that. Any other G items? I am pulling G2 and G6. Okay, so any E items? Ms. Rupert,
E1, please.
okay. One. Any other E items? Any I items?
Oh, wait,
I2 was withdrawn.
we're on double though, right?
We're on single letter consent items.
Single letter, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I need E2 and E3. I'm sorry,
and E3.
I reversed it in my head.
Okay, perfect. So, any I items? I2 has been withdrawn. Seeing none, any J or, I guess we only have J1. J1? And K items.
Oh, I do,
I'm sorry?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, 2, 1, and 4.
Okay, 1, 2, 4. Perfect. Any others? And L items, L1 or 2? Okay, is there anyone from the audience who would like to pull an item that the board members have not already pulled? At this time, may the chair please have a motion and a second to pass the consent items that have not been pulled for discussion?
So move.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Brinkworth. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. At this time, will the board members please identify the open items they will be asking questions of staff? This will better manage staff's time by letting them know which open items we intend to address. So we could start with the BB items. CC1.
Me too.
Okay, so I have Ms. Good, Ms. Rupert, Ms. Bartleman for CC1. EE items.
Oops, no, sorry.
Okay,
I do.
so Ms. Aladef,
Ms. Rupert has her
I'm sorry, Ms. Rupert?
Thank you. You said EE, yes?
Yes.
Okay, EE1, EE4, and EE5.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Aladef asked if I would share her comments on EE3, EE4, and EE5. So I will read those when we get to that place, and I am going to be speaking to EE4, EE5, and EE7.
Say it one more time.
So the ones that are gonna, I'm pulling EE4, not pulling, but speaking to EE4, 5, and 7, and Ms. Aladef has asked to have me rate her comments on EE3, 4, and 5. So FF items, yes, Ms. Rupert.
FF1, please.
FF1. Any others? JJ items,
Mr. Korn?
yes.
1, 2,
Is this JJ?
yeah, I got this one right, I'm
Okay.
good.
Yes?
Yes,
J-
1,
1.
2, 7, and 10.
7, 10, okay.
Perfect. Ms. Brinkworth?
12 and 13, please.
12 and 13, okay. Any others? And LL items.
I do?
Yes, Ms. Good?
So I am pulling LL5 through LL30, and I sent my comments ahead of time.
Would you like them pulled together, or
Yep,
will we
that's
pull
totally fine.
collectively?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any others for LL items? I'm just going to share a comment, but I'll speak to it when we pull all of them collectively. Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
may I ask a question of Ms. Good? Was it all the way to 31 or just 30?
31 is a different item.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
As we begin taking items for the operational meeting and the public will have the opportunities to speak to items, I ask to remind the public that speakers are advised to refrain from obscene or vulgar conduct, slanderous remarks, or statements that tend to incite violence or breach of the peace. Speakers are reminded to demonstrate proper decorum and model the district's 8 character traits: cooperation, responsibility, citizenship, kindness, respect, honesty, self-control, and tolerance. So may the chair please have a motion and a second on G3.
Second?
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Is there any audience input on G3? Seeing none, My colleagues, is there any discussion on G3? Seeing none, all those in favor of G3, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. G3 passes unanimously. That is great news for a whole bunch of people in the audience today. So, Ms. Bartleman?
Yes, I would first like to congratulate Rafina Amin. She's an accountant 3. Linda Aaron Siva, she is Human Resources Administrator 1. Tracy Ann Bertrand, she is Temporary SMAB Administrator. Paula Cronin, she's the Supervisor of Human Resources Support Services. And Michelle Bacchetti, she's a Registered Nurse School Health. Congratulations.
And I am very pleased to share our new accountant 3 is Sharon James. Our new registered nurse in school health, Fabian Jones. Our new area security manager, Francisco Lizano. Our new social and emotional learning supervisor, Daniel Shapiro. And our new school health registered nurse, Dania Telemaki.
And I have the great privilege this morning of welcoming the new principal at Westwood Heights Elementary, Dr. Georgia Stewart.
And we welcome to Royal Palm Elementary the new assistant principal, Celeste Scope. As well as to William Dandy, the new assistant principal, Ayana Whitworth Barner.
So, yes, Ms. Murray.
I'd just like to make a comment of our new assistant principal at William Dandy. As best known at Apollo Middle School, which she is now leaving, it's Miss B. So it makes it easy for the kids to pronounce that long name. But, you know, we watch people grow and develop, and this is an outstanding administrator. It will be a great credit to Dandy, although I'm losing her. The children at Dandy I know will embrace and love her, great things will happen as she assists staff and students, and I wish her all the best.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. And so with that, congratulations to each and every one of you on your new appointments. It's a very exciting day. And at this point, if you'd like to step out, you're welcome to. If you'd like to join us for the rest of the meeting, you're also welcome to do that. So we'll give you a moment, and then we will move on with our next G item. Okay, if I could please have a motion and a second on G2.
So moved. So moved, yeah.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Dr. Osgood. Is there any audience input on G2? Seeing none, sorry. I didn't realize. Ms. Brinkworth?
Yes, so I had a question first. On one of the pages, the note at the bottom says actions processed in SAP as of 9/5/2019. I didn't know if that was an old note or if that was accurate. It's this page with the Excel spreadsheet.
Alan Strauss, Chief Human Resource Equity Officer. I'm assuming that it's just a misnote from it
Okay,
before.
okay, can you
We'll
just?
verify.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate Andrea Woodburn, therapist family counselor who is retiring. She has served the students of Fort Lauderdale High School and really brought some great things to athletics and to all the students. And so I just wanted to wish her well in her retirement.
Thank you. If my colleagues don't have any other comments, I have one on G2. There's discipline, a 5-day disciplinary action that we're being asked to take on a suspension on an individual, and based on the information that was shared, I'm not comfortable with the action that was provided. The follow-up I was able to discern this morning, for me, is not enough information for this to be the action that I don't think that it is aligned with the information at least shared to this point. So I'm happy to, I would like to separate this name, and we can, if there's time during the day and I can get some additional feedback, I would be happy to try to move it later today. If not, I'm going to ask that we table it to another meeting. So for right now, I'd like to separate the name Mark Montemurro and till later this afternoon. Second. Okay. I need to pass the gavel, actually, to do that to Dr. Osgood.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Runcie, I think
Yeah, I was
wants
going
to
to ask if
comment.
you could consider modifying the motion to allow it to come back to the next school board meeting so we can have time to thoroughly review it. I don't think we're going to be able to do that in the course of this afternoon.
Okay, so Dr. Osgood, if I could.
Okay. Ms. Corn, would you restate your motion, please?
Yes, I'd like to separate Mark Montemurro to table the item to our next board meeting.
Okay. It's been motion and second to separate Mark Montemurro. Is there any discussion from the public? Any discussion from board members? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So Mark has been separated.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osgood. Is there any further comments on G2? Seeing none, all those in favor, I'm sorry, yes, Ms. Good?
So the motion was to separate. Did it include also tabling it to a future meeting, or it was just separation?
So I was,
Before you pass the gavel back, I didn't know if you wanted to make.
I understood that she
I
did
did
both
both.
with the motion.
Okay.
I can I not, Ms. Myrick? Okay, so thank you for the clarification, Ms. Good. So on the remaining items as amended in G2, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. G2 passes as amended. And so we will take a break from our G2 items and take committee reports at this time. So is there anyone in the audience that is here for 5 minutes of their committee reports? If you'd please just state your name as well as your committee. Thank you.
Good morning. Linda Ferrara. I'm here for number 1 Facilities Task Force. We did have our meeting, and we welcomed the opportunity to provide input into the Program Manager Owner's Representative RFQ RFP. It was a very healthy discussion, and we appreciated the opportunity to do that. Linda Ferrara, District Advisory Council. Yeah. I'm not doing any other committees, though. Back in May, the board asked that Policy 5.9 be looped through DAC. In September, Dr. Hickman attended
Ms.
our...
Ferraro, one
Yes.
second. This is a different report. Can we
Yes.
do a different, give her the full 5 minutes for the second report? Thank you very much. Just want to make sure I gave you the breadth of the whole 5 minutes
Oh,
for
well,
the next
thank you.
committee report, so thank you.
Okay, I'll start again. Linda Ferrara, District Advisory Council. Good morning, Chair, board members, and Superintendent. Back in May, the board asked that Policy 5.9, the anti-bullying policy, be looped through the District Advisory Council. In September, Dr. Hickman attended our DAC meeting and was advised that this had not happened, probably because it was the end of the school year and there was a transition in that department. We are asking the board to table Policy 5.9 so that DAC and other advisories can provide their input. According to Florida State Statute 1006.147, each school district's policy shall be in substantial conformity with the Department of Education's model policy. We have found that there are areas in the policy that have omitted paragraphs, processes, words, along with other sections that needed better clarification. DAC, ESE, and I believe Diversity and ESOL were not given the opportunity to provide their recommendations. If you choose to pass the policy today, then we will just go through the process provided to make the various advisory committees' recommendations at another time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other committee reports this morning? Okay, seeing none, if I could please have a motion and a second on G4.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Good, second by Dr. Osgood. Any audience input on G4? Seeing none, I have Ms. Brinkworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a couple of questions about when I was looking through the documentation, there were
Ms.
different.
Brinkworth, can you move your
I'm
microphone?
sorry.
Perfect.
There were
thank you.
different dates, and I'm gonna have to forgive me because I didn't leave it flipped to that page, so just hold on one second. On the information for Ms. Brown, Area Security Manager, I'm trying to see it from my notes here because I wrote very cryptic notes. It says recommended for a 3-day, but the note everywhere else says recommendation for a 2-day.
Could you tell us what page?
There's no page number, so if you look, it's in the big, thick G4 packet.
Yeah.
And oh, it's not for, it's from, I'm sorry, this memo is from Shalonda Brown, Area Security Manager. No, there's no page number. So it's, if you look on the section for Lakita Ferguson,
Okay, hold on.
it's the first letter, it's to Eric Chisholm, and it says recommendation for 2-day suspension without pay in the note, but then at the bottom, and it says attachments, December 16th, 2019, recommendation for a 3-day suspension. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't an error because it's different.
Specifically, Eric Chisholm, Director of Talent Acquisition and Operations. It is definitely a 2-day suspension for her.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it should, for the board, if it pleases the board, we've been very consistent across the district, whether it's maintenance, transportation, that initial discipline is a 2-day suspension.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that there was, I didn't see a letter that said recommendation for a 3-day, but that's what's referenced in this letter here. So I just wanted to verify. And then, let's see. Then can we, I guess I want to have, I'm sorry.
Ms. Brinkworth, can you just point out again where the letter is? Because I'm just looking to see about consistency with signed documents, so it's just in the packet.
It is.
It's the last page of the documentation for Ms. Ferguson.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Sorry for
it's the front of the last page, I should say, not the back of
Okay,
the last page.
thank you.
Got it.
The letter that went to the employee indicates 2-day. It just said recommendation for a 3-day at the bottom is how that letter was referenced, and I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a discrepancy. And then I had a question about the Cooper City Elementary School Facility Service Person, and I guess, so the change in the recommendation, can you please explain? I know what it says in here, but I want to hear it for myself.
If I may have Craig Kowalski to come in and speak to that specifically. It was an SIU investigation.
Sure. Can you repeat it? Okay, so it is the Cooper City Elementary School facility service person where it was a 10-day that was changed to a 3-day.
Thank you. That's supposed to mean our times.
Getting caught up in the question. Craig Kowalski, Special Investigating Unit Chief. As far as your question, it was, why was there a reduction, or?
I just want to have an understanding about a recommendation for a 10-day and then being reduced to a 3-day. I know that the recommendation from PSC was a 10-day, and recommendation was then modified. And so I will tell you, after reading what I read, it wasn't very clear. And so I felt like perhaps I was missing something in the backup as to why it would be changed.
I'm going to generalize on the process. That's okay, Ms. Myrick, and unless you direct me to get specific. But the Professional Standards Committee makes the recommendation, and then we have the post-PSC review. The facts are then reviewed again by the designee, and the totality of the circumstances are taken into account, in addition with any prior disciplinary history, and the final determination is brought to you. As far as specifics of the case,
I don't think it's appropriate for you to tell me about specifics of the case, but I feel a need to understand why a compelling reason why there was a significant change from what was recommended in PSC and what is before us now.
Yeah, so Craig, just the rationale for it, and I guess one of the notes was that there was some stipulated discipline agreement. I don't know if that factors into the whole piece, but if just the rationale of why it was changed, not the details of what happened in the case, but what was the driving factors in changing it?
The guiding factors were, after conversations with legal, due to the fact we had a stipulated agreement, and the agreement to the actual discipline. There was no concern about that behavior coming back with the actual disciplinary agreement as agreed upon.
So what are the details of the stipulated agreement?
This one. Through the chair, could I request an additional 15, 20 minutes just to pull the file and have it in front of me?
Do you want to make a motion to?
Yes, that's fine. I guess for me, similar to the one that you already had deferred to the next meeting, we have a stipulated agreement before us, but but that doesn't really, it doesn't say anything. So I don't really understand why there is a reduction. And now you're saying it's because of the stipulated agreement.
I do not want to misspeak. Let me pull the file to
Okay.
confirm there is a stipulated agreement because this is a non-instructional individual.
So, Ms. Brinkworth, it's actually the same reason that I separated earlier, and Mr. Runcie wanted additional time in this case. They may be able to provide it before the end of the meeting, so do you want to table till later in the meeting?
Madam Chair, Jeff Moakland,
Yes.
Chief of Staff. Let me go ahead and clarify the process first of all. So, one of the enhancements after the last revision to Policy 4.9 was we implemented what we call a post-PSC review, and that includes myself, Mr. Strauss. It includes Chief Kowalski, as well as representation from the legal department who actually participated in the Professional Standards Committee for those applicable cases. The purpose of that additional step is to hopefully achieve what this board wants, which is consistency and discipline. So we specifically are looking to ensure that progressive discipline has followed, and reviewing previous cases that, if probable cause was in fact identified, that we are hopefully applying a similar discipline to previous cases. What I would ask in this particular case, much like the last one, is that we go ahead and separate it and move it to the next board meeting. And what I will make sure happens is in cases where, as part of that review, that there is a change in the recommendation from PSC, we will become much more detailed in terms of providing a justification of why that group felt the need to amend the recommendations of PSC. And so I'm sure I participated in this case, but in order to be able to go back and look and refresh my memory, I'd ask that we go ahead and postpone this one to the next board meeting as well. And we will start including in the executive summary of the backup the specifications as to why we are changing from PSC's recommendation.
Okay, Ms. Korn, I don't know if any of our colleagues have other comments before the item, if there's any questions.
Are there any other comments before the motion is made to separate and table? Ms. Rupert?
Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit today. Going through the PSC paperwork at the very bottom, where it asks to reduce to 3-day suspension, it says to support progressive discipline. So when you come back, could you maybe share that with us? You know, because that usually has a bearing on the final ruling. So that would be very helpful for me. Okay.
Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Good?
you.
Yes, I concur with Ms. Rupert. I think even though there's a lot of information here, there isn't enough information in the sense of, if you just read it based on what's being shared with us, and the subject matter is sharing supplies, something's missing in the equation. So maybe I'm misreading what it's saying. So I think we just need to get some clarity on as to why the reduction and the progressive discipline because of X, Y, and Z. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brinkworth?
I'd like to make a motion to separate JS from G4 and defer it to the next regular school board meeting.
Is there a second? Second. A motion by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Does the motion need to actually say the name, or is that indication understood?
She said she could put JS.
I just want to make sure there's no other JS in the document, so maybe J Singh, just for clarification purposes. Thank you. With that, is there any audience input on the request to table to the next meeting? Seeing none, to my colleagues, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of separating and tabling to the next board meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. So that particular individual's name will be removed from the item. And so going back to the larger item, is there any additional comments on G4? Seeing none, all those in favor of G4 as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. G4 has been approved unanimously as amended. May I please have a motion and a second on, well, no, actually, I'm going to Dr. Osgood, we're going to hear your resolution. Hi, Mr. Watkins.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, David Watkins, Director of Equity and Diversity. Good morning, school board members, Superintendent Runcie, and guests. I am proud to be here today to celebrate Black History Month and to honor the significant contributions that African Americans have made to this great country. The study and integration of Black history is part of our required academic instruction in K-12 education. Per Florida State Statute 1003.42, we are mandated by the state of Florida to teach the history of African Americans, including the history of Africa, African people, before the political conflict that led to the development of slavery, the passage to America, the enslavement experience, abolition, and the contributions of African Americans to society today. The Equity and Diversity Department and Student Support Initiatives and Recovery continue to support the African and African American History State Mandate by providing staff and students with curriculum support, professional development programs, and activities. One example is the book Hidden Figures, which we provided to you today as an example of a book that we do provide to schools that highlights the true story of 4 Black women and their impact and influence on the American space travel and the landing of the Apollo 11 and the Space Shuttle missions. And at this time, I would like to request Dr. Osgood to give us some words.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins, and thank you for your great work, and thank you to the department that provided the Hidden Figures book that captures the historical accomplishment of African American women, written by an African American woman, who all just happened to be members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I just thought I would throw that in there. It is with great pleasure and proudness that I stand this morning to bring forth this resolution on Black history. As we pause for a moment in this February of Black History Month, in a few weeks I will be traveling to Selma, Alabama, to do a reenactment of the 55th year anniversary of Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge crossing, where over 600 African American people were killed and beat marching for the right to vote. And I think it's so critically important, as we recognize different cultures and different history, that we continue to make sure that our young people have their foundation and that they understand history. This morning, I have chose to bring Dillard High School forward because it is the first school that was for African Americans in Broward County. And we have Tariq, Deshauna, and Joshua here today. You'll be hearing from them later. But I think it's very important that we continue to keep our history before our children so that they understand the struggles, the challenges, and how a lot of the rights and opportunities that they have today, people literally died so that they could have that right. So at this time, I'm going to ask one of the phenomenal District 5 principals to come forth and talk to you about Dillard High School and introduce some fabulous, outstanding young people who are also a part of African American history today as well. Ms. Cassandra Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Osgood. As the proud principal of Dillard High School, it is my honor to be here this morning to share with you a brief overview, a brief history of the historic Dillard High School. I have with me this morning, who will also be a part of this presentation, Tariq Benjamin. Tariq is a 12th grade student. He's been a member of the robotics team since 9th grade, and he plans to attend the University of Central Florida, or NYU, in the fall. Deshauna Gray, 12th grader, president of Junior Achievement, a member of HOSA, plans to attend the University of Iowa in the fall. Joshua Collins is a 12th grader as well, an accomplished animator, president of Business Professionals of America, an officer in the Key Club. He too plans to attend University of Central Florida, or FAU, in the fall. I also have my magnet coordinator for technology, Ms. Jessica Swanson. Now about the historic Dillard High School. Dillard High, originally called Colored School, was the first school for Black youths in Fort Lauderdale. It was established in 1907 after the turn of the 19th century in a one-room frame building with grades 1 through 6 on land purchased from community pioneers Frank and Ivy Stranahan. In 1907, Fort Lauderdale was largely a farming region where some found it unnecessary to educate African Americans past the 6th grade because many assumed these students would only land jobs in farming. But in reality, the opening of the colored school was the beginning of monumental African American achievements in South Florida. In 1924, the first new building was built, and the school was later called Old Dillard, after James Harvey Dillard, a white philanthropist and advocate for Black education. The building is now known as the Old Dillard Museum and is located on the campus of Walker Elementary School. In 1937, the school progressed under Principal Dr. Joseph A. Ely, who added more classes and sought to educate African American students past the 6th grade. Dr. Ely was the husband of Blanche Ely, social activist and former principal of Blanche Ely High School in Pompano Beach. Dillard High School's first commencement was held in May of 1938. In 1943, Dillard's well-known jazz program was led by Julius Edward Cannonball Adderley, who later became one of the best-known jazz musicians in America. Adderley brought a new life to the school and helped instill the importance of jazz in the students. He taught jazz when it had not yet been accepted as a classical art form while he was teaching jazz. He also taught Bach and Beethoven. Dillard High moved into its present-day facility in 1950 and is the anchor of the community. Dillard High School is over 112 years strong. It has a rich history along with its distinction of being the academic home of many proud graduates. Now, over 3/4 of a century later, middle school students are again an integral part of the student population. In 2012, with a new principal, yours truly, and the addition of over 250 middle school students, Dillard High School is better known now as Dillard High School 6 through 12. The middle school has grown to over 500 students, resulting in 6 middle school promotion ceremonies, and is now the home of 3 premier magnet programs in Broward Public Schools: Dillard Center for the Arts, Emerging Computer Technology, and Digital Entrepreneurship, with an evolving curriculum of rigorous coursework for academic excellence, with a legacy of excellence in academics, the arts, technology, and athletics.
In the area of academics, the school offers advanced placement courses in 16 subjects and has the honor of leading the county with 100% passing rate in our AP Art program. Our Cambridge program, which commenced in 2018, is leading the country with student Raphael Lee earning the highest mark in the USA for Cambridge International Digital Media and Design. In 2013, under the leadership of Principal Robinson, the school earned its first A in the school's history. We also are the first school in Broward County to offer an on-campus internship with Florida Blue.
In the area of performing arts, the Dillard Center of Arts of Wind and Orchestra has been invited to perform the New York City's legendary Carnegie Hall as part of the New York Wind Band Festival. In 2018, the band was invited to perform at Pearl Harbor Day, the celebration in Honolulu, Hawaii, in December of 2020. The entire performing arts program band consistently earned straight superior rating at both the district and state festival assessments. The band has earned an invitation to the Essentially Ellington National Jazz Competition, where they have won first place 3 times, finished second 3 times, and has placed third once, and also an honorable mention twice. The band has performed with some of the finest jazz musicians in the world, including Wynton Marshall, Marcus Printup, Victor Gonez, Vincent Gardner, Wilcliffe Gordon, Nestor Torres, Sean Jones, and John Faddis, as well as Terrell Stanford and Stephen Harris, just to name a few. The Dillard Center of Arts commercial music program has groomed such international talent superstars as Jason Derulo and Kent Jones, in addition to other outstanding young producers that are writing songs for top names in the music industry, such as DJ Khaled and mega producers like Cool and Dre. The Dillard String Orchestra is the proud alumnus to the Black Violin, two of the hottest young violinists in the nation. The Dillard Theater Company has presented the biggest Broadway show in a professional quality over the past several years, such as Dreamgirls, The Wiz, Ain't Misbehavin', The Color Purple, The Bodyguard. This season, the theater company is presenting Ida and the Shrek the Musical.
Hi, good morning. In the area of technology, at Dillard High School, 6 through 12, we are celebrating our 30th year as the emerging computer technology magnet for Broward County. Under this program, we have robotics, engineering, programming, video game design, cybersecurity, digital art, and film. With our newest magnet, Digital Entrepreneurship 6 through 12, we offer business leadership, business ownership, marketing, and business technology. We have grown from in 2012, where we only had 12 industry certifications, and now under the leadership of Principal Robinson, we have grown to over 350 annually. Our first year as a Junior Achievement Fellows team, we were finalists for nationals and sold over $4,000 in products. Our robotics team regularly competes in the International First Robotics Competition. In our 26 years as a team, we are the oldest team in Florida. Some of our athletics, we have a long history of success in athletics. Dillard Isaac Bruce was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Lorenzo White was recently inducted into the College Hall of Fame. Coach Eddie Frazier led our varsity football team for the 2019 season, was a regular undefeated season of 10-0. Coach Davidson Gill, our cross-country team, was the first team of the BCAA County Championships in 2019. In 2018 to 2019, we had 7 advanced teams to FHSAA regionals, our championship finals: girls basketball, boys basketball, girls and boys cross country, girls and boys track and field, and girls flag football. In 2019, Dillard High School was awarded the Floyd E. Lay Sunshine Cup All Sports Award for our accomplishments with our girls sports teams, the first time in ever school history. Coach Gaines Wright, in 2002, first ever All-American girls relay swim team to swim in the FHSAA championships. Coach Pender has the most wins in state of Florida in any sport, and she is the winner of the McDonald's All-American John Wooden's Coaches Award. Thank you.
Let's give our students a big round of applause. They were a little nervous about coming. Yeah, thank you. We could go on and on, but we understand there's some time constraints. So Dr. Osgood, thank you so much for this opportunity again to share with you just a little bit about Dillard High School. So we're really thankful for this honor to be recognized as the School for Black History Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson, and we certainly commend your work and legacy at Dillard and all those that have gone before you. And as we continue to work as a board to celebrate the rich culture and history of many ethnic groups that make up our district, it is with honor that I ask my colleagues to join me in reading the Black History Resolution. Being the only African American school board member, I must say that I am honored to serve with the board who is intentional about providing for the needs of all of our children. So as we read this Black History Resolution together today, it is symbolic of the work and the strength that we have when we work together to do remarkable things for all children across our district. So we're going to begin the resolution now with the word resolution. Resolution in support of Black History Month, February 2020. Whereas Negro History Week originated in 1926 from an idea which was conceived by Carter G. Woodson, a Black historian who was known as the father of Black history. And whereas the purpose of National Negro History Week was to emphasize the significance of the historical experiences of Black Americans, their achievements, struggles, triumphs, contributions, and successes. Whereas during the 1960s, the observance was expanded and became known as Black History Month.
And whereas the rich history and heritage of African Americans is documented in the fields of education, medicine, science, music, art, dance, architecture, drama, athletics, entertainment, politics, religion, engineering, technology, and many other fields. This rich cultural and historical background has given inspiration and has provided identity for African Americans. And whereas Black History Month is an annual observance wherein attention is focused on the significant and numerous achievements of African Americans, their many contributions to the growth and development of this country, and their past and current status in the country and the world. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of Broward County, Florida, in conjunction with other organizations and groups throughout the United States, hereby declares and proclaims the month of February 2020 as Black History Month, given at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, this 4th day of February. School Board of Broward County, Florida. I also have 3 certificates of appreciation for Tariq and Joshua and Deshauna today on behalf of the school board, to thank them for being here and being part of this presentation. And I'm going to ask if my colleagues have comments after, if we could take a picture.
Thank you. Ms. Good?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just, at a moment like this, when we're recognizing Black History Month, we have to recognize my colleague, our colleague, Dr. Osgood, for her leadership and the way that you empower your community, your students, your schools, and us as a board. It's truly an honor to serve along your side. So I thank you for your leadership. And to Ms. Robinson and the Dillard High School, what happens at Dillard is magical, and a lot has to do with your leadership, ma'am, and I thank you for that. Because anytime you go there, whether it's athletics, academics, or the arts, Dillard High School is a shining star, so thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Osgood, being a huge fan of history personally. History is what helps us to remember and also to inspire. And so to our amazing principal who has joined us today, thank you for sharing all of that along with your students to let us know not only where have we come from, but where we are today and all of the places we have yet to go. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. Dr. Osgood, letting us all share in it, and we can do a group photo.
Step into the middle towards Dr. Osgood.
We just wanted to get a couple more books.
Everybody step a little bit in towards Dr. Osgood. Everybody move to the center. You guys look great. Ready? On 3. Looking forward. 1, 2, 3. Smile. I think when you're not smiling.
need to get down to this. This is where the magic happens. Don't tell anybody.
That's awesome.
You want?
You want to say something? Okay.
Just a quick comment. I apologize. I missed her, and I should have better training to recognize a former educator, Ms. Johnny Fye, who is in the audience with us today. Thank you for being here and being a strong supporter of Dillard. She's also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
That was nice, Dr. Osgood. Thank you.
So at this time, the school board will continue the remainder of our agenda. Members from the audience who would like to speak on any of the items that have been pulled will be given 3 minutes to address the board. This will allow for each person to be heard and for the business before the board to be handled in the most expedient manner. May I please have a motion and a second on G6?
So moved. Second?
G6 has been moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Is there any audience input on G6? Seeing none, I pulled G6. Give me one quick second as I.
Okay.
This was just a question regarding our numbers. Thank you, by the way, for giving us this year-over-year comparison. It's very helpful being able to see it. Can you just speak to our gifted numbers were the one that just kind of rang out as the numbers, seeing some increase over last year, and I think historically it had increased last year as well. So can you just help address where we are and if there's anything that we can do as a board proactively to help in assisting in that area? And I'm sorry I didn't give you this question ahead of time to prepare you. So if you want to come back, we can always bring this back. Okay.
Susan Rockelman, Director of Talent Acquisition. Just give me one moment. I'm just looking at the item here.
Sure.
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of history about why somebody would be put out of field for gifted. So the ways that the rules are now, which changed a few years ago, and you'll look here, the majority of them are in secondary middle school, particularly is the one that gets the most gifted. If that teacher has one student that's assigned in their class, I could be teaching algebra, and I have one child that is identified as gifted. We have high achievers and we have gifted. That teacher would then be automatically put out of field for gifted and have to go through the process. So it does cause some concerns from when principals are scheduling. If they don't have a full class of gifted students, then the one teacher does have to be put out. The teachers typically will agree to be out of field, and then they have to go through the training. What we have found is sometimes when the teachers start going through the training, they realize that it's a little more than what they thought that it would be, and then unfortunately they don't finish out the year, so now that means for next year I've got to get a different teacher. So it is hard to be keeping that sustainability in the classroom to keep those same gifted teachers getting the training. And we have put in place now, we do have the infield designation, which will help the teachers maybe, I don't want to say not have to complete all of the training, but the gifted department has put some measures in place to help those teachers acquire the gifted infield designation sooner, so that it is not actually having to do a lot of seat coursework. We're using more job embedded strategies, so we're getting that out there to the teachers to let them know. So I do find that that is why the numbers tend to be higher, because it is like I don't want to say revolving door, but we're constantly picking new people to be the gifted teacher. So it is something that we are working on, and hopefully we will see then more teachers will be more apt to want to stay with the gifted to continue to teach it.
Okay, so to that, thank you very much. That actually is reminiscent of what you shared with us last year, so I know that was the direction that we were going. Two things. The first is, and the infill designation obviously is, I think last year it seemed like that was kind of our hope, right, in making sure these numbers, but what's occurred this year is the number actually has gone up again. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm wondering is maybe some of this going back more on a scheduling, because the reality is the training for gifted does allow our instructors to be more in tune with and to be able to provide a differentiated instruction for those gifted students. So there's obviously a clear benefit. This isn't just let's get a designation. This is actual gifted training. So if Dr. Wanza, maybe we could speak to, or through Mr. Runcie, I think maybe we need to have more of a concerted effort. I'm not sure where that falls, but in terms of from scheduling, having these students in classes with our teachers who are certified with gifted is important. And if our teachers are accepting this opportunity to have these students in their classes, I think we have to have a commitment. The infill designation obviously is helpful, but I think we just need to identify that this is something that we need to be a little more proactive and maybe in a way different from last year so that we don't see this reoccur then next year.
Valerie Wanzer, Chief School Performance and Accountability Officer. Yes, Ms. Corn, so we're starting to build schedules for next school year now. So that'll be a part of the conversation. In fact, we have a meeting coming up in the next week or so that will certainly be a part of the conversation, and you are correct. As a principal, I went back and did gifted endorsement with my teachers, so I do understand the commitment. So the work has shifted some over the years, but we certainly will sit down with our school leaders and look at how they schedule and how they can be more intentional about it. And then, make sure that we work within not only the requirements of what's necessary for scheduling, but also other school requirements when it comes to scheduling a full school.
Okay, thank you. And I don't want to minimize how difficult I know scheduling can be, but the challenge is one that I think that we need to do just that, is challenge ourselves to rise to that level, to make sure that we are putting the students in those appropriate classes with the teachers who have the certification to work with them. Any other comments from my colleagues? Yes, Ms. Murray.
Well, my viewpoint on this is a little bit different, that when a principal looks at the needs of their students and the wishes or the direction that's coming from their community and what a school wants, many times the teachers aren't certified. So the principal reaches out to those interested and encourages them to take the courses to get their certification. But this is not an easy task for teachers to do. I mean, they're teaching, they got their own responsibilities of setting up their classroom, their curriculum, they have their own families, and it takes a lot of discipline and devotion to get these certificates. And some of them take more than a year. So, as we say what we want, it isn't always easy to get to that level. And, I know that principals are encouraging the staff within their building to get what they need. But I want people to realize that, this is really a very short list of people that don't have certification. But I'm sure that the principals recognize the talent in the individual that could take this class on without the certification and be successful. So I don't want people to think because a teacher does not have a certification that the person that has that class without it doesn't have the ability to reach and deliver what we expect of them as a professional teacher. So I think you need to be a little more emphasis on what it takes for some of these certifications and the timeline that it takes, because I've always encouraged those who are going on to higher education to be a teacher to make sure that you're dual certified. But I find in talking to teachers that we're demanding a lot more from them. Some teachers may be teaching 3 different subjects in a class in a school. So that's some of the things you need to emphasize a little more, because I don't want people to think that we have teachers teaching students out of class that aren't competent to deliver what we expect of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rupert.
Thank you. And I think sometimes I have to squeeze up here to see you guys. The messaging is important, and I can tell you as someone who has the reading, the ESOL, the gifted, I loved every class because every single class made me a better teacher. So if I were to be going for it now, or a new teacher or a teacher we've had for a while, I think the emphasis should be this particular class and these techniques are going to make you a better teacher for your entire room to differentiate instruction, instead of, well, you know what, you're going to finish that. You want to finish that because it's helping you go back to the creativity where you got into teaching in the first place before it was teach to the test. But I don't know if that would help per se, but I don't really hear that emphasis when I'm talking to teachers. They feel overburdened, and sometimes phrasing it in such a way that it'll make you better in your classroom and for all students. That's what it comes down to. If I had a perfect way, I would get every endorsement myself. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of G6, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. P6 passes unanimously. At this time, Mr. Runcie is going to share some comments with us through his report.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I have some good news I wanted to share this morning about Broward County Public Schools and our coordinated student health services. We're collaborating with Memorial Healthcare Systems on a mobile van project to provide health services to many of our students throughout the county. In fact, 25 schools were selected within the Memorial Healthcare Services area based on the number of uninsured students and immunization rates. 13 elementary, 9 middle, and 3 combination schools will be serviced. And the services they will receive include physical evaluation by pediatric providers, school health exams, vision and hearing screenings, immunizations, education on managing chronic conditions, pediatric specialist referrals, and connections to Medicaid and Florida Kid Care assistance will be provided. Memorial is also providing flyers and letters to go home to parents. Their representatives are speaking at school events such as the SACs and the PTA meetings, meet and greets, open houses, and whatever other opportunities they can find to inform parents of the health services available for their child. 6 of our schools have already scheduled a mobile van to be at their school. Those schools are Silver Lake Elementary, Pines Middle, A.C. Perry, Gulfstream Academy, Oak Ridge Elementary, and New Renaissance Middle. We are pleased to collaborate with Memorial on this important healthcare initiative, which, in addition to helping our students to be healthier, will enable them to be more successful in school. So just want to give a big shout out to Memorial for stepping up as a partner to help our students to live healthier lives. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Runcie. And yes, certainly from the board, a special thank you to Memorial for this collaboration and partnership. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. With that, may I please have a motion and a second on BB1 and BB2?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Good, second by Ms. Rupert. Is there any audience input on BB1, BB2? Seeing none. To my colleagues, any comments on BB1 and BB2? Yes, Mrs. Brinkworth.
When I was reading these, I just wanted to know, was the requested action always written this way?
Is there a specific
Well,
comment?
it
or-
says, school board confirmation that school board member travel is, I don't recall it being written that way before. And on the requested action? So essentially with our vote, we are confirming that the travel request to attend whatever it is, and then it says is for official school board business and that it complies with the rules of the State Board of Education. I didn't recall in the past that we were confirming that it was for official school board business. Yes, Ms. Myrick?
Ms. Myrick, sorry.
Yeah, that's what the statute says,
Okay.
that the travel is for the enhancement of one's position as a school board member.
That's a little bit different from, in my mind, what you just said, unless this is what it says exactly in statute.
I think this is what we've been saying, but I'll get the statute for you exactly.
Okay, only because I had a question in my mind when I read it. We might all go to lots of different conferences. I don't know that it's incumbent upon us to, I think it was, if it was professional development of the individual, it's different from for official school board business, in my mind. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, but can we just table this for a minute, because I can pull up the statute real quickly.
Okay, so if I could get a motion
Just
to
so that
table
you have it.
BB1 and BB2?
So moved.
BB1 and BB2 has been tabled till later in the meeting by Ms. Rupert, by Ms. Bartleman, second by Ms. Rupert. Any audience input? Seeing none, to my colleagues, any comments? All those, yes, Ms. Good. Tabling it, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
Just very quick, is the issue that you raised in tabling it, because I want to make sure we get the appropriate follow-up, the word confirmation? Because the other language was there, I know for certain.
Yeah, I don't recall, and maybe it was, but I thought we had conversation about whether confirmation was part of the
requested
the
action.
verbiage before in the
Okay,
requested
I just-
action. That's just what I want to understand.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
And for further clarification, just the confirmation as it reads is that we're confirming their travel to attend rather than their cost for travel to attend.
That is correct. It's the confirmation that where they're going is, confirming that it has to do with school board business, not the money.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor of tabling till later in the meeting, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. We'll come back to BB1 and BB2. Thank you. May I please have a motion and a second on CC1?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Barman, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on CC1. I know that we did have a committee report that did speak to CC1. Any additional comments? Seeing none. To my colleagues, I have Ms. Good.
Yes, so I actually had, I just wanted to say that we, in doing a anti-bullying policy, I still think that what's most important is how it's implemented district-wide, and also what I have found within schools within District 2 is the issue of a lot of burden is placed on the individual that's being bullied to provide evidence of the bullying. And I understand that aspect of any investigation when a bullying occurs, but I think sometimes it's difficult for the individual that's being bullied to be able to provide extensive amount of evidence. It's almost like someone who's victimized within the community. It's difficult at times to provide that kind of evidence, and so the bullying continues to occur. So I'm supportive of a policy. I just think it's important that there be common sense approach in the sense of how this is administered district-wide, and the importance of ensuring that those that are being victimized don't continue to be victimized because of extreme lack of evidence. And I understand the issue of the importance of school principals and others having the opportunity to investigate every particular issue raised. But I'm extremely concerned that those that bully are very keen on not leaving evidence behind, and so the ones that are being bullied continue to be bullied. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I felt it was important enough to share with all of you, and maybe you can think of something that we can do differently, but those were my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Ms. Rupert.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. for bringing that up. It's key. My questions refer to page 1 of the actual policy. And I'm going to be looking at 1A under basically the characterizations or the definition. Absolutely support number 8, where we're adding the word ethnic in front of harassment. And I do note that there is a much more extensive list as you go forward into the policy, but I wanted to bring it up there to ask if gender needs to be in here as well, or if you felt that was understood, and why would you choose ethnic in this part and not the other main part? So just really your thought process.
Hi, Amy Wood. Everything that's included within here with the definitions
Right.
relates to the criteria and the mandates put forth by the Florida DOE. So they have a very specific document with their requirements. And so they added ethnic this year.
Okay.
And then on page 3,
right,
on F, you'll see it goes into more
detail, race, sex.
Gender
Right.
identity or expression, etc.
Gotcha. So even though ethnicity is in here, or was in here, we still need to add it up front, is what you're saying?
That's what the DOE said, yes.
Okay, well, that's a simple answer. Thank you. And page 6, please. I guess I have F, evaluation of service effectiveness. And my question was, it states that we have to have 3 years of data. When was the last time this was done? And are we ever copied on the results of this?
Yes. When we met at one of the workshops, you all were provided the data for the last 3 to 4 years. One of the items that stood out for everyone, in general, we always are at or below the national averages for bullying and cyberbullying. But we knew that cyberbullying in middle schools had significantly increased, and so you all were very concerned about that, and that was one of the follow-up items. So as part of that, by then, we had seen this data trend and had applied for the B-Curve grant, which in the interim we received. One of the major elements within that grant objective, one of the 3, is to reduce the rates of middle school cyberbullying.
And you know, that's so sad, is that the state anti-cyberbullying law started right here in Broward County, and this board took a stand, and here we are more than 10 years later, and it's still happening. So I think we do a remarkable job, but I believe that Ms. Good really hit the nail on the head when it came to, I read on the bottom, I think it was on page 12 or 13, that when we are investigating what's going on with the children, the school-based intervention and assistant team, they're going to be, working with the collaborative problem-solving team. But I wondered, in that process, which can be lengthy at times, burdensome for not only staff, but especially the students, if social worker and/or a therapist is provided for both the victim and the alleged perpetrator immediately, not 6 weeks, not when the investigation is done, because from, you look at a mom's perspective who's lived that, it's devastating and can truly change your child for the rest of their life if they are not given the absolute opportunity to be able to heal. And for me, the healing is twofold. It is for both the victim and the alleged perpetrator, because there are behaviors going on there that need to be looked through, and there needs to be healing on both sides. So I don't know if you have a comment on that, or?
I agree.
Good. How about you tell me what happens tomorrow when I go to school and I've already reported it and my parents already know and that investigation is started? Day one from telling somebody, am I offered social worker or a therapist, and is the person who, how does that work, I guess, is what I get for questions from parents. They're like, you know what, it's been months and blah, 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 and we're still happening. So I just think, I don't want you to do like a flow chart. For me, it's more of, okay, so when this happens, how do we facilitate healing with both people and in the school community itself?
So that's a complex answer, and I
Okay.
know you want a simple one. But the fact of the matter is, every case is very different. So the expectation is that both the alleged victim and the accused do receive interventions and services as needed. And so there is an extensive multi-tiered systems of support that are made available to schools and are built into the schools so that they are receiving it. That's part of the reason I think we've differentiated and made sure that people who are investigating or administrative, they're more the disciplinarians, and that frees up the school counselors to provide the support, interventions, and services as needed. So
Right.
it's an ongoing process, and it's on every case, but absolutely, when I'm talking to these schools, they've already done innumerable interventions and provided as much support as those families wish.
Well, I guess I'm kind of focusing on the word as needed. To me, it's always needed. I mean, we wouldn't be having that situation if we didn't, if there wasn't something in the behavior that was needed for healing. So I don't know if I'm still a child and I'm sitting there in 6th grade and this is happening, and, I've had some collaborative problem-solving skills and I'm working on them, yet I still feel sad and I still feel frightened. And as the alleged perpetrator, I still feel frightened myself from wherever that person could be reacting to something. So I don't know, and I don't know what the perfect answer is. Sometimes you got to push in. And I don't know if that is the answer in this particular case, but I think it's important. And certainly would like to hear Mr. Runcie's comments.
And
or
Mr.
staff,
Runcie,
or
I know,
Ms.
does want to make a comment.
Yeah, I was
Thank you.
I was gonna ask staff, I thought, if you just clarify, did the state pass some legislation last year, which we're working under, that a parent can remove their child from the district, take the funding, and they don't need to prove the bullying actually occurred?
Yeah.
Well, that seems like another end of it, so we obviously need to investigate every case, and the nuances, and as you said before, they're very different, because there's a whole flip side of it, right? There's this other extreme where I don't think you really have to show much of anything, and, you know, so if you could just elaborate on that, and maybe I didn't state it correctly.
Thank you.
So there's a couple things I hear you saying. First of all, you're assuming these things actually occurred and the child is sad. I'm talking about, because you said an investigation is initiated, but it doesn't mean it's founded. So that's what as needed means, because I've had a lot of investigations initiated where both kids are like, oh my God, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
We're friends, we're playing. So that's what as needed means.
Okay.
In terms, I believe you're speaking of the Hope Scholarship
Yes.
Program. So with the Hope Scholarship, if it is founded that any of the Hope eligible infractions occurs, then the family has the right to choose to remain at the school, change schools, apply for a scholarship to a private school.
Get it. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see you over there, Mr. Runcie. I get that, and I understand when you said the as needed. I still feel, and that's just a me thing, I still feel that there has to be a quicker aspect, and that, I don't know what it looks like, but I just wanted to state that again. I know that your team does a great job. Everybody is wonderful on that aspect, but we can always improve when it comes to the mental health of our students. So with that, I guess I'll let it lay here and approve the 100% for the changes that are in here, absolutely, and maybe further conversation for me. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have Dr. Osgood and then Ms. Good.
Yeah, so what happens when the bullying allegation is false? And I say that because I've had some experiences where when investigations are done, students were fighting at home over the weekend with siblings. So if I'm with my brothers and sisters and we jump you out at the garbage on Saturday, then when I come to school Monday, I'm alone, me and you fight, and I cry bullying, but I don't tell how I actually started it on Saturday. And I think we certainly want to hold people accountable when they are bullying people, but I think that integrity and honesty, I don't think it's fair for someone to make false allegations. And we talk about it. I know you guys do investigations. You find out the kids said they were planning to. But what happens when there's a false allegation? How is that resolved?
So within the policy, it specifically addresses knowingly making false reports. And that in and of itself can be considered an act of bullying and can be sanctioned.
So do we actually do that?
I can't speak for every school, but I would certainly hope so.
Because I think it's important that we track that information as well. Because I do see that as a form of bullying if I'm making up and saying that someone is bullying me and it's just not true. And sometimes that happens in the district.
Thank you. I have Ms. Bartleman and then Ms. Good.
Okay, so I have two different comments. I'm going to piggyback on what Ms. Rupert, Ms. Good, and Dr. Osgood said. I guess I'll tie it into the first comment because it'll make sense. A lot of times, and I have to say that this policy is very important to our parents and our employees. And based on the emails that we all get with parents emailing us about their kid being bullied, clearly there is misinformation out there about what bullying is, because as to Dr. Osgood's point, it has to be repeated. And one incident doesn't make for bullying and kick in the policy. And that causes a lot of problems, because then a kid is accused of being a bully, and it doesn't fit the power imbalance and everything that happens. Not that that child's behavior shouldn't be dealt with, but it doesn't rise to the level of the policy. So, number 2, the policy and everything, when we introduced the bullying policy, because I was here, part of it was the curriculum piece. That we went into our elementary school classrooms because the only way proven by research to eradicate bullying is to empower the bystander. And so when my daughter, she was the first group that went through with that curriculum, they knew that when they saw their friend being bullied, they needed to step up and say something, because that takes away the power. And I do not hear that this is being implemented in the classrooms on a consistent basis. And when we first rolled it out, it was really, everyone was like, we're gonna fix this, we're gonna buy into it. But I asked my friends' kids, it's not happening. So if we're serious about bullying, aside from the punitive aspects of this policy, we have to do the proactive aspects. And I would hope that Dr. Hickman would work with Dr. Wanza and Ralph and the guidance counselors to make sure that we are implementing that curriculum piece, number 1. Number 2, I have not seen or heard any revision, and I'm not sure if it's been created, about empowering the bystander in the social media world. Has that been discussed? Are there best practices for that? Because that's a little different. Empowering a kid to say something in the lunchroom or on the playground is another thing. So has there been any research or any best practices on how to implement that piece with social media? Yes.
So you're absolutely right. The best, evidence-based programs are continuously pushing out that bystander activation is the way to go, particularly online, because you're always alone, right? And the perception is everybody's doing it, when really it could just be one unkind person. So having one person step up and say, hey, that's not true, don't talk about her that way, makes a big difference. So the 2 big curriculums that we're pushing out, and that the B Curve grant has also brought in a lot more money, and these curriculums have been in place for a couple years now, are the Think Before You Post campaign and the Be the One anti-bullying campaign. And both of them do address online behaviors and digital citizenship and netiquette, as it is referred to. So absolutely, yeah.
But here's, again, the check and balance to the whole policy, like to Ms. Good's point, and to even the curriculums, is the implementation. And based on my anecdotal evidence, this is not being implemented consistently. Based on the amount of emails I get from parents on a daily basis, even how we approach a bullying complaint is not being dealt with consistently. And I feel like if we're gonna spend this much time on a policy, and we purchase these, sounds like we have a new curriculum, which I'm excited about, we really have to use it. Because this is a huge problem, and we know mental health is a huge issue, and this really contributes to a student's mental health and whether or not they're healthy when they feel they're being bullied consistently. So I would like, and I think this goes to my point, I'm gonna let everyone comment, but I feel very strongly that when everyone's done commenting, the fact that our advisories have not had the opportunity to loop this policy, and that they're saying that they have some questions, we owe it to them to hear their voice before we pass it. Because this is, like I said, this is a hot topic as a school board member. It's what we hear all the time out there from parents, even our employees with staff-on-staff bullying, which is an issue. So when everyone has commented, I think I'm gonna make a motion, and I know it's very important to this board that our advisories are part of the process and feel part of it, so that, they're our stakeholders, so they buy in. So I'm gonna ask to defer it so that we can loop it. So I'll go back to my colleagues, and then.
Through the chair, if I may.
Goodwin, yes.
Yes.
So the policy itself had been reviewed. There was a policy development forum that was held. It was held back in March. The diversity committee also participated. And so it wasn't that opportunity wasn't provided to the advisories.
But it was provided differently. Because if you did you go out to all of the advisories with a staff person and let them present it, voice their concerns, then bring that information back to their individual staffs, gather the information from the schools, and then loop it back up, because that's different than what you just said.
You're correct. We followed the looping process. We did not go to all the advisories. We made the opportunity for them to participate and made it knowledgeable, and it was posted and gave notice.
Did we change the looping process that we don't go to DAC and SAFs? Because I thought that was part of the looping process. I may have been asleep at the wheel, but that's the looping policy is the whole point, is the SAFs and the advisories. As a matter of fact, I have to say the calendar, Eric, give Chisholm some kudos. He did exactly that with the calendar. It really trickled down and came back up. And that's the model that I think is very effective, and it's something that we need to use. And when we go out to our individual advisory committees, that's what we're going to hear. And so you have a representative from facilities.
So, Ms. Bartleman,
Oh,
gonna
I'll be
interrupt you
done.
for a
I'm
second.
sorry.
You asked a question, so instead of expanding on it, let's get an
Go ahead.
answer to the
Go ahead.
question, which is, did this follow our looping policy?
This followed our looping policy. This is not a board-created or appointed committee, but making recommendations to the policy. Therefore, we didn't have to.
Okay, I'm going to
We followed
reiterate.
the policy.
I have a different perspective of our policy, and I'll let someone else speak, but the calendar committee followed our looping policy. I think we have to have a discussion as to what our interpretation of the looping policy is. So I'll let Ms. Good go ahead. 'Cause I don't think it followed it, and I think we should go back out. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Good?
Yes, Madam Chair, just in the interest of time, I concur with a lot of Ms. Rupert's comments, and, understand what Dr. Osgood was saying as well. So I don't think that our priority is that if a parent feels their child is being bullied, that we want them to leave our school system. We want them to feel embraced and supported. And so, again, I will say that when incidents occur and there isn't sufficient evidence that the individual who is bullying is impacting this other child, I think we need to provide parents guidance as to what information it is that we're going to be looking for. Because I will tell you, within the last months, I have gotten several phone calls about significant bullying occurring in our schools. And I know that our principals are looking at the situation, and I want to again say that we need to know, or parents need to understand, what is it that we are going to be looking for that they need to provide so that they can get the support that their child needs to deal with this bullying that's going on in the school. Sometimes the bullying occurs at the bus stop, sometimes the bullying occurs on the bus, and sometimes it occurs on campus. And I don't know that our parents understand what it is that we as a district are going to be looking for to substantiate that the bullying is actually occurring. And I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to make some comments, and then Ms. Bartleman, I will come back to you. I actually share the same concern regarding the looping. So my understanding is this type of a district-wide policy is one that would go back to DAC. So I think it's important, even if it's a memo, but I need some information as to what is the threshold in terms of which of these types of policies are going to which committees. I know years ago, DAC saw almost every policy. So for something this broad and this impactful for all of our students, I'm just surprised to hear that DAC would not be one of the committees, and our SAC, that this would be looped through. So, I don't, Mr. Moquin, if you could maybe speak a little bit to that. I know your history with this is long.
So the looping policy, if you will, is a component of Policy 1164, which is communication and public engagement. It refers to the public engagement loop. What initiates that is not a type of policy or certain criteria of the policy. What is to initiate that is the request of the superintendent or the board members saying, yes, we want this to go through that loop. And then it becomes a very prescriptive process that is largely facilitated through the DAC process and then through individual SACs and SAFs at the schools, and then that information going back up through DAC in order to formulate what would be considered parent voice.
Okay, So I appreciate that very much. As a board member, what I would like is, I would like us, and I think we've contemplated determining which policies potentially in a year's time are going to be the ones reviewed in the year. I think it would be helpful, Mr. Runcie, if you could potentially share that, those goals with us in terms of which policies, and that would then give us as a board an opportunity to be able to say, these are the ones that we would like designated to go through that DAC looping process. In this case, I, as one board member, would like this to be looped. I think it's appropriate. From a timing perspective, where do we stand in terms of the timing of moving this forward and knowing that this request is being asked?
So the 3-year deadline for the review was this month, so we're well past that due to a variety of reasons. So we certainly could, but we're moving well into the next 3-year review. But if that's what you want, the challenge is all the changes are not substantive in nature, and they're all dictated by the DOE. So when we had our public forum, we brought you the recommendations. There were very few to none, but the challenge is, my hands are really tied in terms of changes we can make to the policy because they're so prescribed. But
So this is, I guess, where I would go with that response, so I appreciate that. But I think the perspective in that response is that maybe we need something more substantive, and that would be determined in the looping process. So as much as I appreciate what was brought forward to us here, maybe minimal, if it's reviewed every 3 years, there may be a review in which something substantial does come up through the looping process for us to consider. And so without it going through the looping process, we then don't have an opportunity to say, yes, there are some things that are more substantial that do need to be addressed that aren't just from DOE. So with that, I would ask this question. If we did review, if we did pass this today, do we not have the ability to review it again in this coming year? Yes. So we could do the looping process. It may not be within that 3-year required review, but it would still at least give us an opportunity to go through this process, meet this deadline, but then for ourselves as a district, make sure that we're addressing all of our stakeholders to be able to have a voice in the policy.
Yes, I'll be agreeable to that, and that's what I was going to mention when the speaker spoke earlier. That was one of the recommendations, that if we move forward, then they would provide us with those recommendations, and then we would consider those.
So I would like, as I know we've contemplated, doing something, so taking some amendment or some action along the lines of approving this item. My preference would be to approve the policy, but to direct staff to bring this back to us a year from now and to effectively implement our looping process before it being brought back to us a year from now. So that would be within the 3-year review. I understand that's not in the mandate, but I think that's something that would allow us to accomplish the review in the timeframe required of us, but also allow us to have the stakeholders involved in the process in a greater extent than it was to this point. On page 3, just the statement that was made under F, for bullying, cyberbullying, that was a sentence that was added. And it says the school board also provides equal access to the Boy Scout and other designated youth groups. Is that the language specifically given? Only Boy Scouts was listed?
that is the specific language of the EEO policy within the district.
Okay. It seems like obviously there's a lot missing here because we say other designated youth groups, but to have a Girl Scout and Boy Scouts both active in our community and to only state Boy Scouts feels like a glaring omission. I would be more comfortable. I don't know if we have the ability. I would be more comfortable. Yes, Ms. Myrick is quickly putting her hand up. So I'm gonna, okay, so.
No, you can certainly add Girl Scouts. The issue is that there's a state legislation regarding Boy Scouts because of the perceived notion years ago of the discrimination against Boy Scouts, but for their stands for LGBT children. And so and it is prescribed in statute about naming Boy Scouts in different policies regarding discrimination. You'll see it in our discrimination policy too.
Yes. So,
But you
and I
can
was
add it.
expecting, and I was expecting there to be that type of requirement, which is why I specifically asked the question before asking. But I would just ask if my colleagues at a district level, we can include Boy Scouts. I would prefer to also, if we're going to state Boy Scouts, to include Girl Scouts and then just say the additional statement. But I'm going to let my colleagues just speak further to that if there's any interest. And then in terms of my one, and to Ms. Rupert's point, and I know Ms. Good echoed, I agree that we want to be proactive. My only concern is there are so many circumstances that occur when a bullying complaint is brought forward that to say something becomes a little more restrictive or prescriptive, I guess, as well as mandated, takes away some of the opportunity for our schools to really address what's being brought forward in the manner in which it's being brought forward. I agree that I think there's inconsistency across the district, but I don't know if being more prescriptive in this policy will overcome that. I think we just need to make sure that this is being implemented as it is, stated in policy, across the district. And I think sometimes as board members, we decide to get more restrictive in a policy thinking that's going to address the fact that it isn't being implemented as it's supposed to be. So I think we really have to focus on making sure that it is implemented across the district and not necessarily becoming more prescriptive in it, thinking that's going to address the concern. So, and I absolutely agree with the statement that my colleague made about being proactive in the education aspect of the literature and the trainings that are there for our students on an ongoing basis. We were all over it at the beginning, and I just want to make sure we continue to have that veracity in making sure that our students are exposed to this year after year in different ways, but year after year we have that exposure for them. So I have Ms. Bartleman.
Okay, so based on your comments, I guess I don't feel comfortable with or maybe.
Can you speak a little closer?
Oh, sorry. So we brought the motion is, maybe I can include in the motion, like with the item, is that it begins a district looping process for the parents. And is there any, is there going to be a second reading on this or no?
It's already been.
This is it.
This is it.
Okay, and there's a penalty for not completing it within the 3-year cycle. Okay, that's
Yes.
fine. So can I just add to the motion to approve this item, knowing that it will begin the looping process? And hopefully it'll take less than a year, but that's my hope. Because I think part of it is the education of parents, and the looping provides for that, because then everyone knows, and then they feel like they're part of it, knowing that they can take a Hope Scholarship and just leave us. We should include them in every aspect to ensure their buy-in. So just to add that to the language. So do I have to?
So for clarification, that you're amending it with the motion that it will be brought back to us after the looping process within a year?
Within a year, yes.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Ms. Good. Is there any audience input on the motion? Seeing none, to my colleagues, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Farrar, sorry.
Thank you for this opportunity, because there are definitions that are missing, and just to point out one issue, due process is listed in the policy, yet there's no process in the policy for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleague input on the
Lauren,
amendment?
can you put me on the list?
I'm sorry?
This is Lori Aldeff. Can you
Okay.
put me on the list?
Yes, Ms. Olive, now would be the time.
I didn't hear adding Girl Scouts to the amendment.
I'm sorry.
She wanted me to add Girl Scouts. I'll take that friendly amendment to add Girl Scouts to the language.
Okay, so it's been further amended and accepted. Is there any other audience input on, I'm sorry, Ms. Aladeff, was there anything else you wanted to add?
I just concur with my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other audience input on the further amended amendment? Seeing none, to my colleagues, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. So it's a unanimous vote in support now to the amendment. Now to the larger amended item. Is there any further audience input on the larger amended item? Seeing none, all those in favor, to my colleagues, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say no. CC1 as amended passes unanimously. Thank you all very much for the
Madam Chair.
conversation. I'm sorry.
Just for the information of the board, based on something that you had asked for, Ms. Myrick's office is in conjunction with my office. We currently have a joint initiative where we're reviewing all of the district policies and looking to create new structure for the numbering as well as a new template for how they'll formulate. So it'll be, through that process, we'll be able to provide the board members with a list of policies that we're going to be updating over the next 6 to 8 months, and we can decide which ones we would want to go through the looping process as part of that initiative.
Okay. Thank you. And just for clarification, Ms. Rick, when you say and we can, is that going to be something that you're going to just bring through? When you said we can decide which ones would go through the looping process, is that a staff decision or is that something you're going to bring
No,
forward
when
to
I
the
said
board?
we, I meant the
board.
collective board will be
Okay.
able to decide which ones you want to have go through the looping process as part of the update.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Ms. Myrick?
If you'd like to bring back BB 1 and 2 to the floor, I have that information.
Perfect. Thank you. To my colleagues, Ms. Good has moved BB1 and BB2, second by Ms. Rupert. Before we go to audience input, I'm going to ask for the update, and then we can go to audience input. Thank you.
The language in the board agenda item is really exactly what is in the statute. It says, provide outside the district that exceeds 500 hours requires prior approval by the district board to confirm that the travel is for official business of the school district and complies with the rules of the State Board of Education. When this came out, I actually did a template for the board item because the secretaries were asking me how to do this, and so I provided that, which I believe is the language that's before you.
Okay. Any audience input before I go to my colleagues? Seeing none, to my colleagues, Ms. Brinkford, did you want to comment further? Okay. Seeing no additional comments, all those in favor of BB1, please indicate by BB1 and BB2, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. BB1 and BB2 passed unanimously, and please note Ms. Alhadeff on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on LL 5 through 30?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Is there audience input on LL 5 through LL 30? Seeing none, Ms. Good.
So, yes, thank you. The reason I had asked to speak on these, and I had forwarded a request earlier, staff did follow up, but the follow-up that was shared was essentially what was in the item. My concern is our agreements with the ROCS officers have a variety of terms and conditions, such as their ability to mentor and our ability to monitor their mentoring, their ability to respond to incident reports and alarms, and again, it's something that we're supposed to be monitoring, and more importantly, under 2.29, the requirement for them providing monthly reports to the principal and weekly contact with the principal. I'm not opposed to these agreements. I understand that the overall sentiment was that there's a benefit to the program. However, what I was missing for me in the executive summary or backup was substantiation that these terms and conditions that we are asking for within these agreements were fulfilled in each and every case. And there was no documentation, there was no statement that said, at least I didn't see it, where it noted that the required monthly reports were provided, the required contact was provided, if any mentoring occurred, and if any incidents or alarms were responded to. So was that information provided within the backup somewhere that I missed it?
So Leslie Brown, Chief Portfolio Services Officer. So the actual monitoring of the work is done by SIU, and they shared the information in the school board workshop. It was not attached to these particular items.
Okay, so again, I'm going to state this item's before us for approval for a 3-year term. And my comment ahead of the meeting, so it wouldn't have to happen today, was all I was looking for was a statement in the executive summary that essentially said in each and every case that's being presented today that the required monthly reports were conducted. Did it in fact occur? Did the weekly contact occur?
So I may have to ask this to be just deferred for a second, because those reports went to SIU, and I don't have that answer. So I can go and call them right this second. Okay?
Well, again, I just wanted to clarify, that's the backup that I had requested, and I don't mean necessarily documentation, Madam Chair. I was looking merely for a statement from staff to be included in the item itself that indicates that all the terms and conditions that we asked for in the agreement were in fact done in the manner that we asked for it to be done. This is a 3-year term, it's not a 1-year. So, you know, I'm very uncomfortable with approving a 3-year agreement without understanding as a board member today that in each and every case. Now, are you telling me that when you took this in September, you already knew that up to today, everything was going to be fulfilled? I mean, that was September of when?
So the monthly reports, September of 2019 was when
Correct.
the workshop was.
Yes, ma'am.
The reports are turned into SIU. They compiled the reports, and as far as I know, they received the required reports. Mr. Katz just popped his head in, so Craig is going to step in a second. As far as I know, they were absolutely sent in, and they were looked at monthly by SIU.
Okay. Well, that was September, and we're in February. So I just need to know that as of today, when we're voting, and again, these agreements expire prior to the end of February. So it doesn't give us a lot of flexibility. I cannot support these agreements or these for 3 years without knowing that they have fulfilled their requirements. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Katz, can you speak to Ms. Good's request?
Ms. Good, can you just repeat the question one more time for me? Thank you.
I'm going to try to be real concise. The agreements speak to, Mr. Katz, we're approving these agreements today for several ROC officers, which is fine. And I'm trying to understand, pursuant to the agreement, 2.29 requires monthly reports provided to the principal. Also requires weekly contact with the principal. Also requires monitoring of any mentoring that's conducted under 2.28, and under 2.27 requires that we keep track of incidents or alarms at the school. And my question was, I wanted to have a comfort level, and I think it should have been included in the executive summary that said that in fact, all these terms and conditions were met to by the ROC officer in question, and that's all I wanted to know. And if not, any backup that could be provided. But more importantly, was a statement to in fact say that all 3 terms and conditions that I just listed were in fact met by each ROC officer.
Thank you for the question. Brian Katz, Chief Safety and Security Officer. Having talked to Chief Kowalski, the principal element in here, which was the monthly reports and the weekly contacts, SIU does do that follow-up, and yes, throughout this time cycle, yes, there may have been somebody they had to follow up with, but all of them were effectively done during the time frame. We don't have any that didn't do the activity. The challenging one is the point as it relates to mentoring, because we don't control and we can't influence the schedule that the individual is working. And so the biggest challenge that we run into on the mentoring one is if they are working if they work the day shift and they are only off the night shift, having a requirement built into it that they must do mentoring and have that expectation within the school is difficult for us to enforce. But for the other points, he didn't have any concerns.
And the incident reports that are required under 2.27?
Yes, yeah, that those are all being produced as well.
Okay.
Because I know that I've seen the data as it related to, were they the first one who received the call for following an alarm, all of that information as well.
And why would we not provide a statement in the executive summary that in fact staff has looked at the various terms and conditions requirements and that they have fulfilled that requirement?
We should have, and we can certainly do that.
Could we consider doing that in the future so that when it comes to us as a board, we understand that SIU or the appropriate staff that's required to oversee these agreements, that it in fact, because again, it may happen on 29 cases, but not one. And
Understood.
I think that as a board, if we're going to approve these for 3 years, we we need to know that it's in fact been fulfilled the way we think it is. And if the mentoring concept, which it says as feasible, lessee should from time to time mentor students, and it says, and at a minimum provide information on the number of students mentored in this subject. I don't think it necessarily speaks to mentoring at the specific school location, but if you're telling me that that's difficult to monitor, then it shouldn't be part of the agreement. We can't put something in here that we're not gonna monitor. And that was my whole basis for my question. So I'll leave it to the chair.
Okay, thank you. I know Ms. Murray had a comment, and then I'm going to share it. Thank you. Ms. Murray?
It's good. I understand your concerns here. This is something that I've been monitoring for 3 years because there's pro and con on the Rocks residents at different schools. But within my district, I have several that have worked real well. And where I find that they work real well is the spirit of the police department whose offices are at those locations. That there's more governance at that location and not necessarily the burden is on us. So I think that's something that really needs to be addressed with our chiefs, and they need to be held responsible for their own people to make sure that the spirit of the assignment is in alignment with what our policies say, and in choosing the people that are going to reside at those locations. Because a lot of cleanup work went getting these 26 to us today. I realize that, and I've been very patient because I would like to see a couple more added to help my community. And the understanding was once we got this all cleaned up, then we'd reevaluate and move on. And if there were places within the county that we saw the benefit of it, that we'd move forward with that. So again, I know there's been a lot of conversation with the police chiefs and others in the group to get this up and running right. And the communication has to be through our SIU and our local police chiefs, but the offices that are located in these locations are fulfilling the spirit in which we expected when we put them out there. So, I know police work different shifts, but it's surprising someone who works a night shift what they do with our students, because I know that exists too. So I don't want it to be a catch-up situation, but really it's, again, our SIU chief and the Police Chiefs Association, which those locations are at in their jurisdiction, that we get some sort of an overall report, how they feel it's working, and feedback from their offices, so that we know that like I said, what our policy says and the expectations of giving them a spot to live, that's an ideal setup for anybody to help them offset the cost of living in Broward County. So again, I concur, with what Ms. Good says, but I want to use caution because I feel that the police department have really gone over and above selecting the right people to put in some of these, and if that is not the case, then the burden falls on them. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a few things. The first is I'm very happy that we support the ROCKS program in Broward County. I'm certainly a fan of it. I know my colleagues have also supported it. It's one that we also did talk about the potential to expand it. I don't know if that's something that we have contemplated, and at some point, maybe in a memo, you can share with the board where we stand on that. I don't want to spend a good deal of time speaking to that here today, but if you could follow up with us, because I believe collectively as a board, we've asked if staff could look into that and see where we've gone with that conversation. Regarding the mentoring aspect, I understand that it can be challenging, but even if it's just asking the individuals for a written statement to identify the mentoring that they've done on an annual basis. I mean, it can be something simple. It doesn't have to be something where it becomes a burden on staff. It can be as much as just asking for a statement, and that's just a suggestion. But to Ms. Good's point, if it's going to be something that we list as an item they're responsible for, rather than state, we would like you to do this, there's a difference between the two. So just asking for something simple to add to the file and make sure that it's there and that there's mentoring going on, then it's risen to the level of being in the contract, and I agree that that would be appropriate. I also believe that Ms. Good was kind enough to say in the future that the executive summary should make reference to the fact that there was compliance I think it'd be appropriate to actually revise it on this executive summary. One in which it would be then download or uploaded to the website, so that in the future, if anyone looked back, the executive summary. So I appreciate Ms. Good's comments and say that I think we should be proactive today in making that happen. Regarding the one that is not being renewed due to retirement, can you just speak to, is our intent, because at least from the comment that was shared in the executive summary, we were informed that the staff has a desire to sell, that staff member has a desire to sell, and to another ROCS officer. So where are we in that process, and do we get involved, or if he doesn't find someone, we close that as a site? Where are we? And again, I don't want to spend a long time on it, but if you can just give us a quick overview and then follow up afterwards if necessary.
I feel confident within the next several weeks we'll have a resolution to that as far as the candidate, and we will follow the flow chart we have in place to bring the candidate to the superintendent.
Okay, perfect.
Ms. Korn, I have a question.
Yes, I will add you to the list, Ms. Alhadeff. And is there I guess my question is the individual responsible for filling that location, or is the district responsible?
Our process is that the tenant notifies us that they're going to terminate the lease. Once they notify us, we reach out to the agency in which the school resides in. We let them know we have a ROCS vacancy, put it out to those individuals. We put them in contact with the previous ROCS tenant, and from there we will reach out. First step is the local agency. The next step would be the county. And then from there we bring applicants to the principal who interviews the individual, and they have to support those individuals, and then from there we would bring the name to the superintendent.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So in this case, because we, for instance, in what you shared, that we as the district weren't informed until January, where, does it say somewhere in here a responsibility of a time frame in which we're supposed to get a notice? Or a ROCS officer can decide at any point to decide? And I'm not trying to restrict it, I'm just wondering, so that there's a period of time in which it may be vacant, or is that case-by-case basis?
There's a termination.
I saw the termination clause.
So in this case, I can tell you, I received a phone call saying, I'm retiring, and I'm going to put in for termination of the lease. And
Okay.
from there, the requirement would be the 30 days. However, the individual was already moving out at the same time.
Right. So but the requirement is actually 90 days.
90 days.
Right, but so the notice came in January and it ends in February. So obviously that was within the time frame, so it was just going to expire. So it's just in those unique situations when we fall within the 90 days of the natural expiration that we may want to in the future, as we look at the document, still ask for some type of, in this case it would be a courtesy, they're not required to, but if there's an intent to renew, oftentimes there's a clause that says a renewal request will be within this period of time, which then does put the burden on the ROCS officer to communicate with us their intent to stay or to leave. And that would probably be worthwhile going forward. And I may have missed it. So Mr. Akabuso is looking at me intently, wanting to speak.
I'm sorry, Chris Akabuso, Director of Facility Plan Real Estate. Actually, Section 2.04 has a renewal option, and there's a time frame the officer or officers are supposed to notify. Staff, as part of our procedure, we typically follow up with the officers. Unfortunately, this particular officer, for some reason, didn't follow this process, and secondly, throughout the whole process, we kept trying to communicate. Even the attorney, the officer's lawyer couldn't get in touch with him, so unfortunately, there's a requirement here, so we followed it, but, the officer did not.
Okay, so I appreciate that. In this, I will say, just because it's stated, to give 2 years of notice that you're going, 240 days, sorry, not 2 years, 240 days of notice is a pretty substantial amount of time to let us know that you're going to move. Many of us make those decisions in a much shorter period of time. So just something to contemplate. But I appreciate that, and I'm a little bit over in the timing that I had anticipated speaking to this item. So I appreciate all of the feedback. And if you could provide that executive summary modification, and Ms. Good.
So
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Good and then Ms. Holiday.
No, please, let Ms. Holiday.
Ms. Holiday, if you'd like to make your comments, and then we'll have Ms. Good.
Thank you. I would just like some clarification of the report that the ROCS officers are supposed to be accountable for. Is this something that gets sent to SIU on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? And have we been doing this before, or are we just starting it now?
As far as the monthly reporting, it's been in process since the previous agreement was set in place, I believe, 3 years ago. So they have been reporting metrics to us.
Okay, so they've already been doing this on a monthly basis?
Correct.
Okay, so if we were to ask for, like, hypothetically, the last 6 months, you would be able to provide a report from the ROCS officers in one specific program?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holiday. Ms. Good?
So just very quickly, the only payments that they make to us is the annual utility payment?
That is correct, yes.
And we don't hold anything, if they do not provide the required notification, you know, typically when you rent, and I know they're not paying rent, but typically when you rent a place, you put an amount in, somewhat in escrow. They don't do that.
No, they don't. That was a suggestion by staff that we were looking at doing that. That's something that we brought to the workshop. And we actually went back and checked with carriers, insurers, and they would not provide that
I'm
type
not speaking about, I'm sorry. I'm not speaking about the surety bond. I read
Sure.
what you said.
Mhm.
I was speaking more in line of maybe holding, them providing, because they don't pay, do they pay the 3-year utility amount in one payment?
Yes, they do.
So it's all paid in advance?
It is.
And that is the only payment that they provide us?
Correct.
So there's really no penalty for them terminating the lease with insufficient time? I don't see, there's no penalty clause within this.
Correct.
So I just think it's gonna be really difficult to have them fulfill that requirement without any penalty. But, again, I'm supportive of the program. I would like to make a motion that the executive summary for all items that we pulled be revised to include a statement that speaks to the requirements under 2.29, 2.28, and 2.27.
Second.
And 2.30, I believe it's the same.
Is there, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public input? Seeing none, to my colleagues, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please or request for a change to the executive summary, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say no. So with that, I'm going to now further move the full item. All those in favor of LL5 through LL30, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say no. LL5 through LL30 is approved unanimously with Ms. Aludef on the line. Thank you very much. If I could please have a motion and a second on E1.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Dr. Osgood. Is there audience input on E1? Seeing none, to my colleagues, I have Ms. Rupert.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Woods. How are you? Good. All right. Looking through this fabulously redone, beautiful document here. I appreciate the changes, and it gives us an idea of how much manpower is going into making this a reality for our district, and then as well, also what the outcomes have been to see if they've been successful. From my perspective, according to the chart, it looks like we're struggling a bit to get any quantified post-event certified ESM WBEs. Looking through this particular one, there was just one from a Wednesday, October 23rd, and I apologize, I'm losing my voice here. I'm sorry, October 23rd, and we did get one, I'm assuming one new one, which was terrific. And my question really is, how can we help? How can we as a board help us get more of this? And I know we did just address a change just recently right here in this room. So what I'm asking is, I want to see 5, 10, 15, 20, and figure out, which is, you know, your jobs and Mr. Runcie's, as to where do we need to push our concentration, or what do we need to do to make this start popping? And I guess that's my question.
Right. So, Robert Ballou, Director, Economic Development and Diversity Compliance. Well, it's a great question and an even better answer, because the board has already helped with the strategic plan, 2024 strategic plan, having supplier diversity as a critical component on the top left of the Inclusion for All is already helping, because we'll be reporting into the next workshop on the strategic plan next week.
Good.
And with that, we're going to be expanding diversity inclusion in all areas of commodities. Great. And we'll be doing additional work outside of construction where we have good efforts, but we're using the strategic plan that the board has already set forth to help to eliminate the lack of opportunities for suppliers, because a lot of the suppliers that we've identified could do work aren't in construction. Right. So we have to do more work outside of construction that will give more opportunities for the suppliers that currently don't have business.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And I'm assuming that Palm Beach County and Miami-Dade County are doing the same struggle as well.
Yes.
And, you know, I know that they steal our ideas all the time, so don't let them hear this.
We share.
But,
We share.
yeah, that's a better way to say it. I appreciate that answer. So
And just for the record, through the chair, there's a group called the Anchor Alliance. That is the group of the public sector diversity, supplier diversity experts working together to share best practices, and eventually, with our Tri-County certification, share databases of suppliers, so if there is a great supplier anywhere in the area, we'll all avail ourselves of them.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Very exciting.
Thank you. Do I have any of my colleagues with further comments on E1? Seeing none, all those in favor of E1, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. E1 passes unanimously with Ms. Aladeff on the line. Before we break for our closed door, I know, Mr. Runcie, would you like to share something? I think there's some, we've changed some communication, and I think it's important that we share this publicly. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. I know most of the board members here have received several emails and inquiries from students regarding them not being allowed to participate in out-of-county and out-of-district track and field meet. This is the Louis Bing Invitational, which is held in Miami. I think it's the 36th or the 39th year. So what I want to do is just to provide some clarification to all of our administrators and students on what we are doing on February 14th relative to what I call out-of-district, and out-of-district meaning out of Broward County Public Schools scheduled events. So as a school district, we will not have any in-district field trips or activities and sporting events on February 14, 2020. The exception to this will be events that are planned that are out of district, some of them out of the county, such as a track and field event or events that may be scheduled by the Florida High School Athletic Association. Schools that have committed to these events and activities out of the county and out of the district on that day may fulfill those obligations, and students will be allowed to participate. Schools who have received invitations to participate in competitions and events out of the county on February 14th may follow the appropriate process to have these activities approved through Dr. Wanz's office. She is making sure that that communication has been provided to all of our schools. So I just want to take this opportunity to make that announcement in case anyone's listening to the school board meeting today that may have an interest in this topic. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And to those in the community who have shared their concerns regarding this decision, we appreciate your feedback and are constantly looking to make the right decision on behalf of all of our students. So with that, we are now going to Ms. Bartleman?
It's a weird request, but I had pulled item E3 that Sam Bays is waiting for, and I don't need it now, so I didn't know if we could dispose of it so he can leave, or we can just have him leave.
Okay, so before we do the closed door, if I could please ask for E3.
Moved. So moved, okay. motion for
Moved by
E3.
Ms. Rupert, second by Ms. Bartleman. Audience input on E3. E.
E3,
Single
yeah,
E,
'cause that's
right?
what he's gonna wait
Yes.
for, and I spoke to Mary and Sam, so I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any of my colleagues have any any input on E3? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. E3 passes unanimously, Ms. Oliveff on the line. And at this moment, thank you, Ms. Bartleman, we are going to go ahead and have our closed-door session with a working lunch for approximately 30 minutes. So we anticipate being back at approximately 1 p.m. So at this time, all those who are not part of the closed-door session, if you could give us the opportunity to have the room so we could have it expeditiously, and then we'll come back to complete the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome back to the school board operational meeting as we reconvene after our closed door. May I please have a motion and a second on FF2?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Murray. Thank you. Ms. Murray, second. Is there any audience input on FF2? Seeing none, all those to my colleagues, FF2, any comments? All those in favor of FF2, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. FF2 passes unanimously. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ 3, 4, 5, and 6?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on JJ 3, 4, 5, and 6? Seeing none. To my colleagues, any comments on those 4 items? Seeing none. All those in favor of JJ 3, 4, 5, and 6, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. JJ 3, 4, 5, and 6 pass unanimously. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ 8, 9, and 11? Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on JJ 8, 9, and 11? Seeing none. To my colleagues, any comments on JJ 8, 9, and 11? Seeing none. All those in favor of items JJ 8, 9, and 11, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. JJ 8, 9, and 11 pass unanimously. May I please have a motion and a second? I think we're going to go back to the single-letter items on E2.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Bartleman. Is there any audience input on E2? Seeing none. To my colleagues, Ms. Bartleman.
So, I noticed that this contract is just for Beachside Montessori, and there was no reference to MLK. Is that because they're doing it with the other contract, or? I think it's a Leslie question, or do you know the answer?
No, I do not know the answer. So we can either keep moving, because I think the individual's on our way down. I'm not sure how quick she can be here. And
No, we can save it. Coker flew up here. I don't think she knew the answer to that one, because we
No,
went over.
it's
This
a-
is the
it's a
Mo-
program.
Montessori question.
Yeah, it's a program question.
About MLK. Did you ask her? I did ask her. Okay.
So if we could from staff, and I'll mention this a couple times, if we can try to start in the seats in the middle and then move out, that way my colleagues on the end, instead of kind of starting from the outside, yeah, and we're gonna move the microphones over, that'll be much more helpful, just in being able, for you to see us and for us to be able to see you. So, thank you. And then, so Ms. Mulder, are you gonna make an attempt, or do we wanna wait for other staff?
You know the answer? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking for. You want to answer about the MLK?
I'm so sorry. So, do we wanna wait, or are we?
Yes, so
Okay.
Mary Coker, Director of Procurement and Warehousing. Thank you for the question. Ms. Bartleman, when you asked me the question, I reached out to Sharnette, and she said she would be here to provide a response.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'll motion to table this till everyone's here.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been tabled till later in the meeting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. E2 has been tabled. All right, so let's move to, do we have staff here for EE1? Yes, perfect. So I have a motion and a second on EE1.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Bartleman, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on EE1. Seeing none. My colleagues, EE1, I have Ms. Rupert.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, yes, EE1, Ms. Rupert.
It's okay, and I pulled out EE2, but I think I can go on my notes. Hold on. One half a second. Okay, so what I wrote was congratulations to Deerfield Beach Elementary School for receiving the Autism Special Program Grant for Airboaters for Autism Awareness for the amount of $2,500. And Part C is the DART Foundation Classroom Grant, $4,000 for Cross Creek to support the Center School's horticultural program. And Part D, DART Foundation, $5,000 for pipelines into tech careers at-risk youth. This will build our students' science, tech, engineering, math skills, internet and the sciences as they, and this is the cool part, as they build their own computer. So Kano Computer was not only, will help the children write their original code to create and make, develop, then own their own app, game, or art. So very exciting stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then to the remaining that I have the opportunity to be able to share, the City of Hollywood had a general fund social service agency grant. This is in the amount of $41,000 that's been requested through the efforts of our South Broward High School teacher, Ashley Lehman. Also, the Florida Agriculture and Classroom Teacher Grants, we see this one often. This time it's $500 and it's been awarded to North Andrews Gardens Elementary through the efforts of our teacher, Tara, I'm not gonna mess up her last name, and our bookkeeper, Kathleen Kane. Also at Coral Glades High School, Florida R3 Fishing Grant Program was a $500 award through the efforts of our bookkeeper, Barbara Fierro, and our campus monitor, Richard Noble. And then our Target Soccer Program grant was a $2,000 award to Ramblewood Middle School through the efforts of Stephanie Jones, one of our teachers, as well as our bookkeeper, Claudia Tribine. And the last one, and this one is not specific to one of our schools, but it is a $25,000 requested grant for the Young People's Project through the grant for Akame Foundation. And this is actually through our schools participating in the Algebra Project. And as we've talked often about and wanting additional supports in our area of mathematics, this is certainly an exciting request, and hopefully it's one that we will be granted. With that, do I have any other colleagues to comment on EE1? Seeing none, all of those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. EE1 passes unanimously. May I please have a motion? Do I have staff here now for E2? Yes. So if I can have a motion second on E2.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bartleman, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on E2. Seeing none. Ms. Bartleman?
Of course, I have a Chewy Quest bar in my mouth.
Sorry. Hi.
Hello. My question is about, I noticed that this was just for Beachside. I wonder if it's because it's the middle school component. What about MLK?
So the Barry.
So if you could
my name
state
is
your
Hope-
name for the record.
My name is Hope Targoff,
Perfect,
and
thank
I'm in the District Magnet Coordinator for Innovative Programs. The Barry contract is for both the elementary, which does include MLK, and the secondary, which is why Beachside is mentioned. So it would be Beachside, Bear, and Sunrise.
How come one is referenced throughout the contract and one, hold on.
There should be two sort of separate sections, one for the elementary and one for the secondary. And in the elementary, MLK, Beachside, and
Yeah, in the executive summary, it only references the beach side, but it's fine. Oh, I understand.
oh, I don't know.
It says the elementary 1 and 2 Montessori certification allows elementary teachers to teach in K through. The teachers are able to complete the program in 2 years while attending classes at Beachside. Oh, where was it?
Because that's where they attend
That's where
the
they attend
classes.
it, but I just saw Beachside somewhere else. But you're saying that's why, because I probably looked at the secondary. So as long as, I just want to make sure Martin Luther King teachers have the same opportunity.
Yeah, they're definitely in it. The only change is the date got messed up.
Okay, and then this goes to my next question. This is a huge investment for us as a district. Have we monitored the staff turnover at these schools?
Yes.
And what are you seeing?
Just as normal staff turnover. They have that contract that they're supposed to be signing so that it keeps them there for 5 years after their training is completed, or after the first course, actually.
And since we started this, how many teachers have stayed? Because, like, comparatively, what's the staff turnover rate at MLK and the staff turnover rate at Beachside?
I don't have that data.
I just think this is the only program that we pay basically for a teacher's master's degree. It's 2.2 credits short, 2 classes short. Is that correct? 2 classes. And I just think it's a big investment, and for somebody to turn around and leave and then not even teach the Montessori, since this is so special, I just want to be monitoring that, and are we enforcing it?
Well, every year that we bring the contract up to you guys, we have the stats of how many people, of the retention stats.
Okay, so the contracts here.
Well, that's actually last year's contract. The new contract is coming.
Oh, so you'll have the stats. So
Yes, so the reason why we brought the contract today, and that's why there's no financial impact, is because when the original contract was made, there was a typo. Instead of it expiring in 2020, it was put 2019. So we're fixing that, and it explains it on the executive summary. That's all we're doing, just changing the date.
okay, well, I guess I didn't have to read this whole thing then, huh?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll wait. I look forward. You know what kind of data I'm going to look for the next one now then. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Dr. Osgood.
And just so that the public is clear, the answer to Ms. Bottom's question is on page 1 of 12 in the section where it says, like, the
Wait, tell me
fourth
where?
whereas. Page 1 of 12, the fourth whereas. It lists all the schools, Bear, MLK, Sunrise, Virginia Sherman, all of them are listed there.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
No,
why I
that's
was
fine, but
asking.
it's important. It was an important question, a very good question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Ms. Good on the line as well. Ms. Alhadeff, are you with us? Okay, so I have Ms. Good on the line. All those in favor of E2, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ms. Good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Did you vote in agreement with E2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So may I please have a motion and a second on EE3?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on EE3. Seeing none, I have Ms. Alhadeff, but she is not on the line at the moment. I do have, sorry, if you just give me a moment. She did ask that I share this following statement. She has asked if there could be a further understanding of the financial impact that was taken into the needs assessment originally. This was at the beginning of the SMART program. Or are we adding it on to the board's financial impact now? So I'm going to restate this. This is for EE3. Ms. Alhadeff asked if staff could share And we're going to try to move as close to Mr. Woods as possible with our seats and our microphones. That way, we're just going to get used to this. That way, there we go. Staff can see and board members can see. And Ms. Coker is going the other way. Okay, so again, Ms. Aladef specifically asked if she could have a further understanding of the financial impact that was taken into account for the needs assessment originally, and then whether or not we're adding it into the bond's financial impact now.
I have a process question.
Before we answer
Yes.
this one, I'm sorry, one moment, please, Dr. Osgood.
Ms. Myrick, and I certainly appreciate Ms. Aladaf wanting the question answered, but I just want to be clear for process. So as a board member, if I send something to the chair to read, how does that line itself with Sunshine? It makes me just a little nervous. I just want to be
Agreed.
clear.
I asked the same question, so I appreciate you letting Ms.
Well,
Myrick speak to
And
this.
Mrs. Aladef called me this morning to ask me if she sends a list of questions to the chair to ask the questions and doesn't confer with the chair, like, you know, I want to ask this question because I don't like or I like or whatever, that would be a violation. But just giving her a sheet of paper that I actually think came directly from her secretary is not a violation because there was no exchange of a communication between the two of them regarding something that would come before. It's just simply, here are the questions I want to ask.
Okay. And I'm just asking because in past, we would just send in an email, and I just want to be clear for my knowledge, so I know. So now I know we have options.
And it's you know, up to obviously Mrs. Korn if she wants to be responsible to do that. She might, the chair, not just Mrs. Korn, but the chair might not want to do that, and I think that's perfectly within her purview not to do it.
Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Korn.
Thank you. And so, to staff.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Ashley Carpenter with Atkins. I guess maybe just a little clarification around the question. I can say that the testing is budgeted in the project budgets. When testing needs to happen on a SMART project, it gets paid for through the SMART project budget. I'm not sure what the part of the question that referred to the original needs assessment. Can you say it again?
It's not my question, so if that's your response, then that's fine. I can't further clarify, unfortunately, but I appreciate the response. Thank you. Do any of my other colleagues have any comments on EE3? Seeing none, all those in favor of EE3, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. EE3 passes unanimously. Ms. Good, do I still have you on the line?
Yes.
Perfect. So we voted on EE3. Your vote was to approve?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So may I please have a motion on EE4?
So moved?
Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by
Second.
Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on EE4. Seeing none, to my colleagues, we will start with Ms. Rupert.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Lyles, how are you?
Morning. Good afternoon.
Okay, my question with this is, okay, so you guys you're gonna piggyback on the state for $3,800,000. I guess my question is this in our budget? Have we budgeted already for this? And then my question for the next part is actually on EE5, so.
I defer that to Ms. Marte.
Okay, thank you.
Judith Marte, Chief Financial Officer. The budget for this item was established at final budget adoption by the will of the board to improve our white fleet, our bus fleet. I think that item's coming a little bit later, so these are all fully budgeted items. We will take advantage of very favorable leasing costs. So it's not going to cost us $3.8 million. The purchase will, but the lease expenditure is all budgeted for at the will of the board.
Awesome, and we did get that, I think the review, which is, I'm sure it's up online, so people, that really made it a lot easier to understand. And I will hold my next question, because it's a simple one, but it's EE5, so I'll wait. So.
Thank you. So the, so my comment was along the same lines in terms of the budget that was already approved. I just wanted to make sure that this aligned, so that question I appreciate. I was echoing. Ms. Oliduff also had a comment here, but Ms. Myrick, honestly, this was a comment she wanted me to share for conversation between my colleagues rather than a staff question.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions on EE4? Seeing none, those in favor of EE4, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. EE4 passes unanimously. Unfortunately, I thought EE2 had been addressed, but it was not. Can I have a motion and a second on EE2?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Ms. Brinkworth. EE2.
Can we add
Audience
EE6,
input.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry?
Can we add EE6 to that motion as
Sure,
well?
can we add EE6, Ms. Rupert?
Yep, items 5.
EE2, 5, and 6 have all been added to the item.
So now I can talk, okay.
Second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on EE2, 5, and 6. Seeing none, to my colleagues, I have Ms. Rupert who would like to speak on EE5.
Yes, thank you so much. And basically, this question goes to Mr. Woods, he and I have talked about this before. Can you update on the state electric buses opportunity? Because I think this is a good time to actually put it in here, since we're actually getting buses, we hope, by passing this.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I know that Mr. Lyles has been working closely with Mr. Walton at the county. They've been coordinating and collaborating. I know there's also some grant funding that we're looking at to support this initiative. John can fill in some of the details.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Runcie, we're very excited about the possibilities. Our inside word is that the decision-making committee has narrowed it down to 3 municipalities or districts. Hopefully, we will be one of those districts. We're also planning to visit a facility that builds electric buses next week to gather more data. We're also planning to visit some infrastructure projects that Broward County Transit has in place over the next week or so, and look at some electric buses that they're procuring. So it would be great if we could receive the funds to purchase the electric buses. One day, long term, I would love to see our entire parking lot covered in solar panels. All of our buses are plugged up, and we sell the electricity back to Florida Power and Light. Right now, we are keeping our fingers crossed, and we'll keep you updated as more information becomes available.
Okay, awesome. And you know, every one of us, when we see something in the paper, we jump right on it with Mr. Runcie's staff and say, hey, are we available to do this? And they were already on it. It wasn't like I was telling them anything. It just came to my eyes that day. But it is a great opportunity, and I hope we do. And I absolutely support both the 4 and 5. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bartleman.
I just wanted to make sure that in addition to if we do get the electric buses, you have to have the infrastructure to charge, and that was something that the county was when they got theirs, so it's discussed in one of my committees. So do you have plans for that or no? I mean, you can get money for buses, but if you don't have the money for the infrastructure to charge the buses, then we would have to come up with that. So are you getting the money in tandem for both things, or are we gonna have to set aside money for the charging?
The grant would provide monies for both
That's what I
electric
wanted
bus
to hear.
purchases and infrastructure. But as Mr. Woods just quoted, we're also looking at a partnership, possibly with Florida Power and Light, as well as BCT, to make those funds go further.
It's happened before where people buy stuff and then don't have the infrastructure. That's why I was checking.
And thank you for the question. That through the chair, that's we're trying to monitor both. The infrastructure is the larger investment, and we don't want to move too fast. So we're keeping
But I'm
tabs
excited
on both
about
of
it.
those.
Very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Murray?
Mr. Woods, very wise words. We were part of a pilot program many, many years ago on the hybrid buses with the natural gas, and the infrastructure wasn't in place. We had to run those buses to Sunrise and different other cities that had already set up the infrastructure. So again, are there any other school districts that are doing this already, have it in place that we could actually check to see what kind of success they're having?
There aren't any school districts that I'm aware of in Florida, but we are communicating with the vendors. We asked and actually had one of the vendors bring in an electric bus and allow the drivers and staff to drive them around and get a feel for them. But as far as the infrastructure, that's something that we will tour at a future date.
Well, I just want to caution, sometimes when you're the leader in an experimental operation of this magnitude, that, because it hasn't been tested out by others, that I wanted to caution before we put any money into this, that it's actually something that will work, and that if manufacturers want to use us, then it really has to be 100% investment from their side, and not us. Because eventually, if it proves to be a worthy product, then most certainly we'd move forward in purchasing buses. But the last time we did something like this, it became very costly to the district. I want to caution you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Levinson?
We're also on EE2? Correct. You said? Okay. So I just really wanted to, I'm a big proponent of this, having done it myself, and but I just wanted some questions on the spending breakdown. I don't see it here. The on-site client support and weekly project management updates. There's a lump sum figure, but doesn't say what we get for that.
Yeah. David Watkins.
This is for EE2.
Public consulting group, yeah.
Pardon me, could you repeat the question?
Yes, so I'm talking about on page 2 of 13, the fees, the breakdown there. Actually, the last two. It says setup, and this is ongoing, so I wanted to know what that was for, and then the last item. Because usually there's an addendum that explains how that will be broken down. And you have a great, actually, final report, year 2, in the back. That was very informative, but there's nothing as to explaining the fees to us, unless I missed it.
I'm going to ask, when prior to this wasn't pulled earlier, I did let the staff leave just now. If you can give me a few minutes to look at this, I can provide an answer. And just for clarification, your question is, what is the breakdown for the implementation
For
of ongoing
number
support?
4 and 5,
25,000?
under 2.04. And if you want me to postpone to later in the meeting?
Please.
So you can get an answer?
Okay.
And then I'd just like to also just make a comment. I would really like to get a follow-up as a board as to what is happening in our schools as follow-up to those who have taken this course. Because obviously, what we're trying to get at is what happens in the school afterwards. So if we could reach out to our schools and find out what's happening, I'd like to see what the impact is and how they're advancing the work at the schools.
You good with that?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to postpone EE2 to later in the meeting.
It has been moved and seconded. Any audience input? Seeing none to my colleagues, any comments? All those in favor of tabling to later in the meeting, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, so we will bring EE2, 5, and 6 back for discussion later. If I can bring back to the floor now, we didn't separate it.
Want me to separate
No,
it
we
so
can
we
just
could
bring them.
finish the other ones? Or you're okay with that? I mean, I don't know if we
Why
want.
5? I'm sorry. EE5?
Because we pulled them all together. EE2, 5, and 6 were pulled together.
Ms.
So would you
Meyer, can
mind
I go back
separating them?
and just separate EE2 so we can continue with EE5 and 6? Okay, so I'll amend my motion to separate EE2 and defer it to later in the meeting.
So it's been moved and seconded by Ms. Rupert. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. So EE2 has been tabled to later in the meeting. Now, if I can take a vote, please, on EE5 and EE6. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. EE5 and 6 passed unanimously. And I have Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on EE7? Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on EE7. Seeing none, all to my colleagues, I pulled Okay, Ms. Levinson?
Yes. In light of our conversation last week and the review that was done about costs, I just have to say I'm very uncomfortable with how, and I read your explanation here, how it was decreased and now it's being increased. And I'm just have concern about how we're monitoring what the costs are on large contracts like this.
I'll start, and then you can. So thank you for the question. When the item was pulled, I figured that it was related to the past workshop. So I can appreciate the concern. Two things on this item specifically. One, in general, I will say that we have made some improvements on the procurement side. So when you think about our financial analysis worksheet, how we've automated that or increased the automation of that, some of the triggers that we have in place, we no longer build in contingencies. So some of the concerns that was related to this item, I feel that from a procurement standpoint, we've worked to minimize those. And I know that we are working with Atkins to look at some of the contracts of programs that we've already implemented in the PPO area to do an analysis to give us more concrete information around our pricing structures for contractors and materials. For this particular item, there was a technical glitch that happened in the past that was associated with this. I'll let Ms. Coker talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to ensure the board that we continue to try to make sure that as it relates to all of our departments, that the items that we're bringing forward, we've done our due diligence to the best of our ability around the spend, and we bring what we know, which is usually based on historical spend, to the board for approval. We don't try to bake in any contingencies or anything above that. So.
And Ms. Levinson,
Thank
you for your question. I just want to clarify, in doing all the research, we can actually say that this was an isolated case. It was a technical challenge that we had when the servers were just changed at the end of last year. So we had to go back to using the old servers, and because we went back to double check all the contracts to ensure that there was no issues, we found this to be the case. So again, I want to make sure that the reason why we came back to the board in October and we requested for there to be a spend decrease was because the financial analysis worksheet had been impacted because of this isolated server change. From having identified the fact that we found an error, we went back and we checked all the contracts. We're almost done checking the contracts, and we have not found another one that had an error. And that's why now we've come back and we've fixed the error and we've asked for more money. So I take full responsibility for the financial analysis worksheet being incorrect in October. But it is correct now, and we are confident that this was an isolated case and look forward to not having this issue again.
Thank you, Ms. Coker. And then my second question would be to Mr. Bays. All of these items that have no response, how do you purchase those?
Bless you.
When there's no primary awarded vendor name?
Sam Bays, Director of Physical Plant Operations. Anytime we have an item like that, we collaborate with our partners at Procurement and Warehousing, and we do open market purchase.
We purchase them. We do a 3-quote system, our standard system, and we're the ones that go out and get the quotes and purchase them on behalf of PPO.
For each of these items, you get 3 quotes each time?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. My question was in regards to the average monthly expenditure. On the executive summary, it doesn't match. Sorry. What? Sorry. there's actually two sheets, and for some reason, every time I turned it, I got to the $47,000 one, because there's two of those bid. And so I kept adding the numbers, and I'm thinking, I don't know where this number is coming from, but as I'm
One
going
from
through it now a
October.
third time, I actually got, there's two. Wait, why are there two? Because,
Previous, that's the one from October.
oh, okay, sorry. All right, so I don't have a question. Those numbers now actually add up, so I appreciate that, and my colleague's question. So with that, all those in favor of EE7, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Aye.
EE7 passes with Ms. Good on the line concurring. May I please have a motion and a second on FF1? Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on FF1? Seeing none, to my colleagues, Ms. Rupert.
I'm happy to see this item come forward. I don't know, oh, here we go, okay. I'm happy to see this come forward, the educational programs that will be helping our students and our staff, especially with the Hope Clubs, District Mindfulness Initiative, and it certainly is something that we spend a tremendous amount of our time speaking about, social emotional learning, and of course trying to break the stigma of suicide for our youth as well as employees and for the community as a whole. So I'm very happy to see this item. I'm glad that we did receive this funding from USF, and that $810,000 is a gift, and we appreciate it, and it will be for district-wide support. Very happy to see this at this time, so thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have any of my colleagues with further comments, so with that, all in favor of FF1, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Aye.
FF1 passes with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ1?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on JJ1. Seeing none, to my colleagues, Ms. Bartleman, JJ1.
Okay. Any here? Okay, so this one, I know I tried to give you my questions before. I have it now, and we're trying to guess what my questions are. Why was it, is this just another situation where it just came in drastically so over budget? Did it come within your new budget? JJ1, I'm sorry, I was asking.
Kind of hard hearing you. Can you repeat it again?
Again? Okay. So it was a design bid build. Is this estimate within your new estimate? And then why is it so much more? It's not a roofing project.
A couple of things. Ms. Bartleman, Danny Jardine, CBRE here. Again, this project is a large roofing project.
Oh, is it roofing?
Yes, ma'am. We have over
It
86,000
helps
square
when-
feet of roofing.
Oh, I apologize. Wrong question.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that it?
No. I have a question. I have all my J's. I have why 1 million over? So it is roofing, and that's exactly why for this one.
It is.
Okay. And then I asked you already about the percent for the fees, but this is design bid build. This is the one that we discussed. So I'm actually good on this one now. This is what happens when I go out there and talk to staff before. I apologize.
No problem.
Not a problem.
Next time, though, I'll bring out my box with me.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't have any other colleagues listed. Any other questions? Seeing none, JJ1, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say
Aye.
no. JJ1 passes with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ2?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Dr. Osgood. Audience input on JJ2. Seeing none, I have Ms. Rupert. I'm sorry, Ms. Bartleman. Sorry about that.
This is the one you answered outside about the sprinklers, correct? Is this the
Yes.
one? All right. I was trying to be efficient, so I went outside and.
Very efficient, Ms. Bartleman, thank you.
Okay, so I'm good on
Your
this one.
questions have been addressed?
Yes, he did answer about the sprinkler, and they're gonna resolve it for future things. Got it, thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of JJ2, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. JJ2 passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ7?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on JJ7. Seeing none. To my colleagues, I have Ms. Bartleman.
Yes, this is the Coconut Creek. Okay, so I was just curious why there was no, is this the same that what I asked you before? Is this coming out of contingency? Is that why there is no?
Impact of
Okay,
budget, yes.
so I asked this question about the CM at risk in case anyone ever has this question. When you see a change order, for me, I usually think I'm gonna see financial impact. But what they've told me is that they have a contingency fund, that if it's under a certain amount, that's why
It's
it's.
not this one.
Oh, that's the Falcon.
That's the Falcon Cove one.
Oh,
This-
because he
that's
said it
Falcon.
was.
But this one too.
This
Well,
one
we're
too.
talking about change.
Yeah, I'm talking about both of them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so my question just was, because we have to pay them, but this was my concern. If we stay underneath the guaranteed maximum price, we get that money back at the end of the contract, and then we get it put back in reserve, which helps our bottom line. But they explained to me that, and I'll let you explain, that if it's an unforeseen condition, you go out of contingency, and I just, from my peers, you can explain, because I didn't understand why this one fell under that. So go ahead.
Correct. Frank Girardi, Executive Director, Capital Program. With the question regarding the contingency that is in the contract, the guaranteed maximum price, is strictly for unforeseens.
Right.
And you'll see that later on with
In,
later
Falcon.
JJ items on Falcon, where there's a contingency use directive. This is the first time we're using one of these directives in a long time. This is the first one that's come up with the CMARs that we've been using. The CMAR has usually about a 5% contingency in their contract, to where when we come up with these unforeseen conditions, anything under $50,000 is approved by myself, and anything over $50,000 has to go to the board. That's why on Falcon Cove, that was 78 or 98,000. That's over the 50, that's why it's here at the board. When we're done with the project and they've only used a small amount of that contingency, that comes back to reserves through a change order, a credit change order, and that's removed from their contract.
At project closeout, is that
At
right?
project closeout,
Right,
correct.
it was just, I'd never seen it before, so then what is JJ7? If JJ7 isn't the same as Falcon Cove, why is there no?
I can speak to it. So basically, this is for a hard bid project. So they do not have contingencies built into their hard bid to cover any change orders. So
Right.
the district keeps a 10% change order contingency within the project budget. So Coconut Creek Elementary already had built into it 10% of the contract value, construction contract value for change orders. So that's why the ARF says that there's no impact to the financial budget, or no financial impact to the district, because it's already in the budget. It's already in the ADFP. It's been added by you guys already.
But what if on the hard bids it goes over the 10%, then would you indicate the financial impact?
Oh, yes.
There would be a
Yes.
financial impact.
Ms. Martier is saying no. I just want to understand this, because I see a change order, I see money, and then I see no financial impact.
Right.
And I just want to know, so I get what you're
I
doing
think
with.
I know what she's going to clarify, but I'll let
Alright.
her clarify. it.
Okay. I can't see my time, Donna.
Judith Marte.
There is no time going on the clock.
Okay.
Your question, Ms. Bartleman, was if we go over the 10%,
On the
would
hard
we
bids.
inform you?
Yeah.
The answer is, he cannot go over the 10% until you approve it. You would know before it happens.
And that's, you knew she was going to say that, huh? Okay. All right, so let me just be clear.
I won't give him the money.
Got it. Okay, so 10, let me just make sure in my head I have this. So hard bids, I will not show financial impact if it's not over 10%. CM at risk, if it's only unforeseen conditions, I will not see any financial impact.
So with CM at risk, there's also basically 10%. but 5% of it is held by the contractor within their GMP for unforeseens, and 5% is held by the district outside of the CMARS contract. So in both of those cases, if you're using either of those buckets, it will not be a financial impact to the district.
Okay, but here's my fear. Is it less motivating then for the contractor knowing that they would have to give that 10% back for them not to, to go ahead and spend it on change orders to make their life easier?
You can't just go and spend it. The owner controls the contingency and all the allowances, so it's only authorized when we authorize it. Otherwise, he can't use it.
But at unforeseen, you can do under 50, and then, okay. I'm sorry, this was all new to me, guys. I had not seen this before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of JJ7, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ10?
So move. Second.
Moved by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on JJ10.
Is that one mine too?
Seeing none,
Hold on.
colleagues, Ms. Bartleman.
Hold on, I just put it all back in the box. Hold on. JJ10. 11. JJ2. Hold on, give me a sec. Oh, JJ10, that was Falcon.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that was,
Good.
they already answered it in the other
We pretty
question
much
about the
explained it on
contingency.
7.
Okay, that was the water, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, all those in favor of JJ10, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on JJ12?
And 13?
Yes? JJ12 and 13 together, thank you. So moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on JJ12 and JJ13. Seeing none, to my colleagues, I have Ms. Brinkworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for pulling them together. I was actually going to request, and I forgot to do that. So my comment and slash question is, one item, JJ12, is very specific about what the changes are, and the other is not, very vague. So can you, I would like it if they were consistent in the level of specificity, so can you give me some specifics for JJ13?
Yes, ma'am, I can. During the final design reviews, our staff was working very closely with the IT department, and it was indicated that we needed to do some further enhancements in regards to IT, making sure that we were complying with the new PA system upgrade specifications, and I think there were some additional data and electrical that was added into the classroom component of the building.
Okay, and then, thank you for that. When we are bringing items like this forward in the future, if you could just make sure, and then that there's similar details, and then similar level of detail, I should say.
Yes, ma'am.
And then for JJ12 specifically, I have a question with regard to some of the details that were listed, and some of them, obviously there's nothing we can do about, joist attachment and concrete masonry unit reinforcing and joist integrity and things like that and electrical deficiencies. But one of the things for the cost reduction efforts include keeping existing walkways in place, reusing, I saw existing chilled water lines that were determined to be in useful condition, reducing overall building height of the addition, and reducing storefront glazing on the walls that are adjacent to the existing building. So I just have a question about two of those, keeping the existing walkways in place and reducing storefront glazing on the walls that are adjacent to the existing building. So for keeping existing walkways in place, how is that, because that space is really small, and I just want to make sure that we're not creating any safety issues.
I don't think we're creating a safety issue. What we're trying to do is minimize what we tear out and then have to replace. The intent is the footprint of the new addition will be within a contained area, and we don't plan on going much outside of that area to do sidewalks if we don't necessarily have to.
Right, and I remember being in the community meeting, and one of the questions that was asked when we were specifically talking about the cafeteria was with regard to where that building ends and where the next building begins. And because we've been dealing with this issue of students having to be out in the rain, and if there's this abrupt end of the new addition and then a walkway that, and there's only this space between, is there gonna be water pouring down? And that was one of the questions that came from the community. So I just wanna have an understanding that all of that is being considered. What I don't wanna do is I don't wanna get to an end result that ends up with further changes because we didn't contemplate that in the beginning. Is that something that's being discussed?
Yeah, we will absolutely take that into consideration as the drawings get further refined. We understand the comments and concerns and questions, and we'll make sure that we get them addressed.
Okay,
I
and
mean,
then.
we don't want to do something short-sighted, so.
Right, well, and I know that I understand that currently there's an issue with the building being redesigned so that it comes within the budget that was allocated by the board. But I just want to make sure that we're not creating further issues when we go down the road. And that specific question came up in the community meeting. And then reducing storefront glazing on the walls that are adjacent to the existing building. So that's just the amount of windows that will be within the building?
Yes, ma'am. I believe it's primarily the building to the, I guess it's the north, I think it's building 9, where we have that covered walkway, is that area of the additional windows that he was talking about. We'll still have windows overlooking the main courtyard and patio, and there'll be windows around the corner that's going to be facing the new bathrooms in the south part of the campus.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, all those in favor of JJ 12 and 13, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. JJ 12 and 13 passed unanimously. Do we have staff yet available for Ms. Levinson's comments on EE2? If someone could just give me a nod when we do have someone available, that would be, Mr. Gull?
Dan Gold, Chief Academic Officer, yes. Chief Hickman just stepped outside. I will pull him back in. I know that he has just resolved the issue, so if you give me just a moment.
Okay. So I think what we'll do is move to the K items, and no, Dr. Hickman is here. Can I please have a motion and a second on EE2?
So moved.
Second by Dr. Osgood, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on EE2. Seeing none, I know Ms. Levinson posed a question to staff. If staff could move as much to the middle as possible, sorry, just so that you all can see, my colleagues and my colleague can see, that would be great. Thank you very much. And Ms. Levinson, I don't know if you need to restate or if staff can just be prepared. Thank you.
I think that Ms. Levinson asked about numbers 4 and 5 on page 2 under 2.04 under the fees. And the question was in reference to the professional learning platform implementation and ongoing support. So the setup involves setting up the staff, setting up the users so that the platform is open and accessible to them. There's a number of things that it comes along with that is recognition, the rostering, and making sure that the staff can actually access the information. The number 5 is the on-site client support and the program management updates. For the on-site, that is actually staff coming and doing, that's when the coaches are set up to do the work, and so it's actually coaching, monitoring, there's videoing, there's the platform itself, and helping them with the training. Do you have anything to add?
And one of the things that makes this tool unique with the on-site client support, it provides the articles on the platform, the resources, the videos. It does the data analysis so that they can do the reports. It also allows with the coaches, so the coaches are working with just a small cohort. So each of those cohort of participants have a personal coach that contacts them, that helps them with the tool, as well as providing feedback. So it's like having their teacher with them, and so that's what it's providing in those 2 sections.
So I would just ask in the future if you could include an addendum breaking that down so we can see how the money will be spent. And then, Mr. Watkins, you weren't here earlier. I mentioned to Dr. Hickman, this is a wonderful thing that a lot of our employees have taken advantage of. I would like to know the follow-up and what's happening in the schools as a result. So So if the board could get something, some kind of report on what's happening in the individual schools, since all the equity liaisons have been trained, and the idea is to move it into the schools to have an impact.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And, yeah, so we'll definitely, absolutely provide that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues that have additional questions on EE2? Seeing none, all those in favor of EE2, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on K1?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Ms. Brinkworth. Audience input on K1. Seeing none, to my colleagues, I have Ms. Bartleman.
Yes, so for K1, hold on. Okay. All right.
Want a minute, Ms.
So I'm on page 6 of 9 and 7 of 9. So the changes in estimated revenues, why did we receive $242,000 less for instructional materials on page 6 of 9?
This item before you, Ms. Bartleman, is to conform our budget to the third calculation from the state. The
Okay.
state reduced our instructional materials by the exact amount you see on this item. All these revenue changes come from the third calc.
Okay, so we've been told that we've been receiving more ESE students, but the ESE guaranteed allocation also decreased by $627,000 on page 7 of 9. So I didn't understand what that was either.
So we are receiving more ESE students in the weighted categories. So when
Okay.
they jump to the weighted categories of the 254s and the 255s, come out of basic ESE, that impacts the ESE guarantee negatively, but we got weighted FTE for those students.
Okay, so this is the weighted FTE, but not in 254 and 255.
No, it's the
Explain it.
opposite.
Explain it
So
again.
The ESE guarantee is the add-on funding for students in basic ESE services, 111, 112, and 113. Our students are being identified with a matrix of service that is higher than that, 254s, 255s. Those are increasing. So we're getting the full weight, the 3 times and the 5 times. And because they're coming out of basic ESE, the ESE guarantee decreased. But
Okay,
we got overall more funding for those particular kids in the weighted formula, Ms.
So
Barnum.
I don't understand how, if they're in basic ESE, you're saying there was a basic ESE and then there was a change on their IEP, that their matrix went to 254 and 255?
Yes, there's
And
more
how
so-
many kids is that to be almost $1 million?
I can get you the details of that change.
I do, because 254 and 255, usually those are kids with intensive services, G-tubes. If you go through, Leo knows what I'm talking about, when you're a teacher and you fill out the matrix with staff, it's usually things that they already always have. It's not something that they jump into unless it's emotional support and stuff.
That's a
So
great, that's
you're
a
saying
great,
this
that's
is-
a great deal of it, Ms. Bartlett.
So you're saying we're moving them into centers, basically? Well,
So
that would
no,
be the change, it'd have to be
Not
more
all kids
inclusive.
with a 254 are in a center. My son was
Okay.
never in a center, and he had a 254.
Okay, so I guess I would just want the breakdown
I
on
can
that.
get you the change in children at that level. Yes, I can.
I would really appreciate that, and the numbers. Okay, and that is it for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have Ms. Levinson?
Thank you. I had a couple of questions and then a comment. On page 8 of 9, you have for the Center of Mind-Body Medicine invoice. Did we ever receive those federal grants that we were told was going to be covering that?
So we did receive the SERV grant very recently for $2.4 million. I'll have to get back to you, so there might be a budget transfer involved with this, but we had an invoice, and I didn't want to have an invoice paid late, and at the time I paid this, we had not yet received the SERV grant, so I may come back to you with a subsequent amendment to reverse that out.
Okay, and what about the other grant we were applying to?
I need to ask grants, it's the VOCA grant, right? We haven't got that yet, right? We have not heard on that one yet.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then an increase to the advanced ed invoice. Why would that increase? Number 5? 1.
Good afternoon again. Valerie Wands, Chief School Performance and Accountability Officer. So when they increase their annual fees throughout our 5 years of accreditation, they sent those costs come down to us as the school district to pay the difference. We normally get whatever Ms. Marte gives us as our standard allocation for the year to pay our annual dues, but when they up the cost, so we can give you a breakdown of what the increase in the costs are. We're happy to provide that to the board.
And we don't know that at the time the budget is
Right.
done. It comes subsequent to budget development, so that's why we've got to increase it here.
But we will certainly give the board a follow-up of what the increased cost covers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And number 5, number 2, I just want to point out, I know there's been some discussion about staffing and placing ESE students at the preschool years. There's $150,000 added to the budget to take care of that. Is that correct, Ms. Marte?
So thank you for the question, Ms. Rich Levinson. So I meet on a monthly basis with Ms. Hollingsworth and her entire team. It's a pretty lengthy meeting. We go through all of their projections, all of their budgets, make sure that we've got enough money to pay for all the services and the contracts and everything. And it came to my attention that in years past, the school board had allocated money to catch up on the staffings, and we had been caught up, but then the money was removed from the budget several years ago, and they started falling behind again. So we're proposing this through June 30th, and when we develop next year's 2021 budget, we will be coming back to the board for an ask for a permanent funding so that during the summer, these can all get handled by the teaching teams that are convened to do it. And quite frankly, by having the children properly placed at the beginning of the school year and counted correctly in October, we will far make back more than what we spend. Because now, if they're not placed till November or December, we're providing services and we don't get money till February. So this is really an investment in not only doing right for our kids, which is obviously the priority of Simone, as well as me, but to make sure we get every bit of funding we can from the state that we're entitled to.
Okay, so I thank you and Ms. Hollingsworth and Mr. Runcie for taking care of that.
You're very welcome, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Barnum.
Just for one more question, because I will be asked this at my committee. So is the money going, are we hiring additional
It's hourly.
It's hourly, so we're going to give them more hours after to do these kids?
Yes.
Okay, so what
That's the intent.
because I don't know how much, the kids right now currently that are, they've been on the wait list for November, they're not going to get tested if they're dual language until like April, and then it's February that started, who were pre-screened in November. So can you ask Simone to give a breakdown of how long she thinks it's going to take or how much it'll decrease for me?
We certainly can work on that.
I think that's really important to give to the community, so thank you.
It was very
And
much.
Mr. Runcie, thank you very much.
Very much
again.
our intention to decrease that weight.
I just wonder if we even have the manpower and how much. And then the question becomes, oh, you're going to make it permanent, because if some of these screenings go into the summer, the new budget will kick in and it'll be permanent.
At the will
Okay.
of the board. We're going to propose it as part of our budget for 2021. If it's the will of the board, that will become a permanent, if you will, hourly allocation for the
Perfect.
summer for teachers who want to work.
I know. Yeah, that's perfect. I just want to, there's just so many on the list right now for this year, and I don't want them to have to wait for the summer. But I love that you're doing this, so thank you.
So, and to follow up on that, in terms of this, because we spoke about this previously, this amount of money was designated because this is what it took last time to bet? Like, how did we contemplate this amount?
So it's the best I could do right now.
Okay.
But Ms. Hollings, as I said, Ms. Hollingsworth, her entire team, we meet once at Arthur Ashe, once in my office. We go back and forth. It's a meeting that we all prep for. Becky helps me, Oleg helps me. Everyone makes sure they bring all their data, because it is a huge cost to the district. And we're all concerned that the kids get the right service. So we could very well come back at the next budget amendment or 2 budget amendments from now and say, we used all this money, we caught up kids, we need more before June 30th.
So that was the purpose of my question, was do we feel that this is the amount of money that we need, or this is our initial effort and there is a likelihood that you may come back and need something additional? I'm just looking for us
This is
to-
our initial effort.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's good news if we ask for more.
Yes, that means we will have that many more children with that much more services across our district. So, so I appreciate that. And I know that was actually part of the response to a conversation that we were having with the cabinet regarding some other issues with ESE support across the district. So I greatly appreciate this quick movement on these first steps. So thank you very much. Is there additional comments on K1? Seeing none. All those in favor of K1, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. K1 passes. Ms. Good on the phone. May I please have a motion and a second on K2?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Any audience input on K2? Seeing none. To my colleagues, I have Ms. Bartleman.
When you're in there, pull out K4 too.
I got K4, I got K2. Here we go. K2, page 4. So my question, sorry, page 4 of 7, number 6. I was just curious as to why the funding was less than projected. Does that have to do with FTE again, or it just, we're $1.4 million less?
Sure you introduce yourself in case they don't know you.
Hi, I'm Tony Fullard. I'm from the Budget Office. So the item number 6, it is actually, when it was presented to the board, it was the preliminary numbers that we received from Florida Department of Ed for Title I. And now we actually have the actual application that was submitted at 82 million instead of the 84 million that was presented at the board last time.
So then how that, knowing that we have staff already in place, where do you find the additional money to cover the shortfall?
There's no financial impact to the district because that was just a preliminary number that was submitted to the board.
Oh, you didn't roll it out?
Correct.
I assumed you rolled it out. I
No.
apologize.
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's my question.
Thank you. Any additional
Oh, wait.
comments? I'm sorry.
Then there was, I'm assuming that that line is the line on page 7 of 7, which is the 1.458. Hold on. I had another circle there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was the decrease.
Pa-
And the
page-
same thing for the migrant education program. You didn't roll it out, but there was a decrease. Got it. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Page 7 is a summary of all the previous pages. It's repeated.
Right. I read it, but I wanted to ask that question anyway. Okay.
Thank you, Ella.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Ms. Bartleman?
Yes. No, oh, not on this item. I thought you meant the next item. Sorry.
Thank you. All those in favor of K2, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
No, I just took
K2 passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on K4?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Dr. Osgood. Audience input on K4? Seeing none, all of the, sorry, to my colleagues, I have Ms. Bartleman.
No, I'm good. It's fine.
Okay, any other colleagues with questions? K4, seeing none. All those in favor of K4, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those say no. K4 passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second on LL1, 2, 3, and 4?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rupert, second by Dr. Osgood. Audience input on LL1, 2, 3, and 4? Seeing none, to my colleagues, yes, Ms. Levinson.
Yes, I had a question here. On the K item, there was an increase of $72,000 for graduations, and I'm not seeing how that coincides here. Because the major one, the Nova one, says that it's the same as last year.
Leslie Brown, Chief Portfolio
The
Services
cost,
Officer.
we're
Yes.
adding one school.
Yes, thank
So there's
you.
a minor difference.
Yeah, so what happened was, that was the amount that was approved last year for increase. So you're not going to see it in this year's. It was just a budget shift that didn't occur in our budget this year. So Ms. Marte had to include it in an amendment to the budget because it was not included at the beginning of this school year. So last year.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, last year there was an increase. Okay. There was an increase of 72,000 that was approved by the board for the graduations. Okay?
So this is last year's.
Correct, but it was not carried forward to this year in the budget.
Okay.
So
So it's just carrying the same amount forward to the next year.
Correct.
So last year, graduation costs increased $72,000. At the time department budgets were done, final graduation costs were not known, and we didn't update them to include that $72,000 in the budget.
Gotcha.
So it's the same amount as last year,
Okay.
but in order for her budget to be whole, to match the same amount, I have to add it in.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Rupert.
Hi, I wanted to get you before you got further down into the seats over there. I had a question about the Broward College Omni. The price is ×1 school, but we do 2 graduations there. We do ATC high, and then we do the adults ATC in the evening. I don't know if they're separate graduations. It's the same place, but different people. So if this was like to include wanding or whatever, it would be 2 different sets of people coming in.
I'm sorry, it's included in that cost. It says 1, but it actually covers both sets of students.
Okay, well, maybe put that next time?
Sure.
So we know? Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of LL1, LL2, LL3, and LL4, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. LL1, 2, 3, and 4 pass unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. May I please have a motion and a second? Well, we already did the ones that we tabled. Is there anything else that we tabled? I know we have LL31 still. Is there anything else that we tabled, though? No, we addressed all of them, right? Okay, so may I please have a motion and a second on LL31?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Brinkworth, second by Ms. Rupert. Audience input on LL31. Seeing none, to my colleagues, are there any comments on LL31? Seeing none, all those in favor of LL31, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. LL31 passes unanimously with Ms. Good on the line. So, at this point, I believe we have dispensed of all of the items. I'm sorry, which one?
FF2,
FF2.
was that done? I'm sorry.
Let me
I
double
just-
check. Thank you for,
Oh, done? Okay.
okay, thank you. So, at this time, do any of my colleagues have reports that they would like to bring forth to the board to share? No? Okay. So what we will do is, we have notified all of the speakers that we most likely would be ending our meeting earlier than 5 o'clock. We notified them first thing this morning. We also reached out to them again this afternoon. We understand that one of our speakers has withdrawn, but the others were notified and indicated that they would be joining us, and we had asked for, or had indicated the time would be at 3 o'clock. So for the courtesy of the half an hour, we will, actually, if we do have any of the speakers who are here now, I would be very happy to take them now. And instead of going in order, I only see a couple of individuals. If you would come to the microphone, as long as you're one of our listed speakers, if you just state your name for the record, please, and then you will be provided 3 minutes for your comments. I'm sorry, the microphone at the stand. I apologize. I think what I'll do is, yes. So if we have the timer, and I'm going to, If you could state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Susan Jaffe. Is that right?
Have you?
Okay. Hi, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, thank you. Should I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I am a children's listener. I asked to address you today because the Listen to Children program that's been offered at Broward County elementary schools for the last 40 years is now in jeopardy. For those unfamiliar with the program, children are referred by their teachers or guidance counselors for difficulties with peer relationships, low self-esteem, trouble adapting to life changes, could include relocation, divorce, remarriage of a parent, illness, or death of a family member. Unlike other pull-out programs, there is no underlying stigma for these students. In fact, having a listener makes them feel special and validated. This is a prevention program and is not recommended for young children with behavioral issues, severe behavioral issues. Listeners meet weekly with their students, providing consistency and the opportunity to develop a trusting bond with an adult who is not there to evaluate or educate, but whose sole agenda is to listen and be fully present and supportive. Research has demonstrated that children benefit from a supportive, ongoing relationship with a caring, non-judgmental adult friend who is not an authority figure. We have collected years of data showing that these children improve both in behavior and performance. I have been a volunteer listener for 8 years. During my tenure, I have witnessed every child grow in self-confidence and coping skills. There are currently 110 volunteers in 50 Broward County elementary schools. All of these have been trained by one dedicated director. The majority of the schools where we have listeners are Title I schools. Since 2006, over 7,000 elementary school students have benefited from having a listener. I feel it is critical that we support these children when they are young and most impressionable. Despite increasing awareness to mental health issues, especially prevention, this program's existence is now threatened. Previously, funding came from a variety of nonprofit agencies and private donors, but never, unfortunately, from Broward County. I'm here today to ask for your help in helping us find some funding to keep this program alive and viable, and to potentially prevent extreme behavioral issues in our children down the road. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I have prepared packets for each and every one of you today, and I'd be happy to pass them out at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Neesmith would be able to, if she has some things for the board, if you wouldn't mind sharing those. It appears that there are additional public speakers, so I think what I'm going to do is go ahead right now. I'll take those who are present, and then if there are any left at 3 p.m., I will call their names again. So this is the time on the agenda when the school board members will hear from speakers. Each listed speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. Speakers are reminded to address matters of relevance to the public education and demonstrate proper decorum. No heckling, shouting comments from the audience, verbal outbursts, or any other disruptive behavior shall be permitted. No signs or placards shall be allowed in the board meeting. No derogatory comments using the person's proper name shall be permitted, and persons exiting the board meeting shall do so quietly, please. Further, at the conclusion of public speakers, the chair will provide an opportunity for the superintendent or his cabinet, at his direction, to provide comments regarding any subject matter or issues raised by the public speakers. Additionally, the superintendent may have speakers of his staff speak to an individual public speaker in an effort to address his or her concerns and provide any follow-up to the public speaker's concerns back to the board. So I will be calling our speakers in order, and again, if you're not present, I will call the speakers again at 3 p.m. Joseph Hayes. And if you could please just state your name when you come, and you'll be provided 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Joseph Hayes. I've had this crazy idea in my head for quite a while. A lot of people told me, yes, it's interesting to go for it. I met with Sheriff Tony. He said, we have to start thinking outside the box. So I'm here now to present this. Without getting into detail, I consider myself a product of the street. and I hear about all our kids being killed way too young with gun violence. Then when I heard all the mothers on the news speaking about something has to be done, it convinced me I have to come in here and talk. My idea is somewhere in our penitentiary system has to be a man locked up for life, has no way of getting out, but maybe can provide a way of improving his life, doing something. And I would like to know if we have assembly in school, bring one of these people in, chained everything, what we have to do to make a presentation, and have him talk to the children. Because I do know a lot of the kids, they don't listen to clergy, won't listen to their parents. I'm hoping they'll listen to one of their peers. And maybe they can turn around and the man can convince them that this is me. I was the tough guy also, and I'm being locked up every night like a dog. To please, try to get a message to him. It might seem like a crazy, radical idea, but if it saves one kid's life, gets one kid to put their gun down, or gets even the kids talking amongst themselves, I don't think it would be that crazy of an idea. And that's all I have to present, and I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michael Cerbola?
Yes, hello, School Board, and thank you for the opportunity. I heard you talking earlier today about bullying, and kudos for you to having that discussion. I can't help noticing, because I've been talking to you quite a few years, you probably heard this, error is an opportunity to learn and to teach, not to punish and judge. And when we have these discussions, 90% plus of them are about, how are we going to deal with this dire situation? We had a teacher body slammed. The concern then is, what's the appropriate punishment? Instead of that student who did the body slamming is the student in that school who is screaming the loudest for help. So the children are literally mimicking us. That's why teaching works. The reason teaching on tablets and things isn't quite as effective is because we're humans. As moms, I think you can understand that mimicking aspect. So how do we get from A to B to where we can change our behaviors? That's teachers, everything. And of course, counseling is one of those things. Instead of trying to make our numbers look good, we should be out front actually trying to make them look bad. We should talk about the fact that we should have counselors from K through 12, and the real number is really more like 1 in 2,000, 1 in 3,000, because we're talking about counselors full well knowing that the public is hearing mental health counselors. They don't understand that 2/3 or 3/4 of those, or maybe 4/5, are doing academic counseling. So we need to be leading with that, with the real numbers. And because there's no bottom to our bucket. In other words, I think most of us would understand that if you don't feed your child, you're going to get in trouble. It's called abuse. But there's no bottom when you're running an institution like this as a company, and I'm not faulting that necessarily as a management ethos, but as an ethos without a bottom, when you're taking care of children, it's not okay. And to develop that bottom, that's what we rely on things like oaths and codes of ethics, which we've been in the news recently. I don't know whether you noticed at a national level. I wonder if we could have a workshop and stand behind teachers and their code of ethics. So when someone has something that goes against their code of ethics, they can bring it forward. And also, I wonder if we have a code of ethics in the same way where your first and foremost obligation is to protect children with yourselves as administrators and superintendents as well, and board members. Perhaps there could be cars circling the local municipalities. They can raise the millage up to 10 points, We always send everyone up to Tallahassee. The truth of the matter is, the real responsibility is here. If everyone, you don't even have to get out of your cars. If the teachers were to decide to suddenly just drive around downtowns during business hours and have the public join in and do it on the basis that they think the children aren't being served adequately, because if you want to address violence and shootings, the threat assessments all say the number one thing is suicides. We need to address suicidal ideation, and the way to address that is through counseling. And thank you for those few extra minutes.
Delvin King?
Good afternoon, school board and Mr. Superintendent. For the ones that don't know, my name is Delvin King, and I'm the Executive Director of Youth Under Construction Youth Center. On Friday, January 10, 2020, at 11 a.m., I was arrested in front of Blanchard High School for trespassing. I was standing out on city Pompano Beach property on the sidewalk in front of the school, speaking on Facebook Live, letting the community and parents know that the principal put the lives of the students and staff in danger on Tuesdays and days before in history, allowing them to occupy the big gym, building 14. The district has confirmed that there should not have been students or staff in that building. It took the fire marshal and the building department to come down and shut down the building. The building did not have a proper certificate of occupancy. Going back to my arrest story, while I was outside the gate on Facebook Live, the principal drove his car off the campus, drove it to the front gate, walked off the campus to come take a picture with me. Immediately after he took a picture and had his hands around me, the 2 school resource officers arrested me for trespassing. Now, I did receive a letter from Dr. Wanza that said I can't have entrance to the school. So they charged me with 2 counts of school safety zone, which Dr. Wanza did not mention in the letter. So I want to know, board, why was I charged and arrested for being in a school safety zone and I couldn't have entrance to the school and I was standing outside the school? Why did your principal come out and take a picture, and then as soon as you walk through the gate, and it's on video, as soon as you walk through the gate, your 2 school resource officers arrested me and had me walk through the school as a walk of atonement, a walk of shame, like you arrested some criminal? And I want to know, school board, when are we going to hold these principals, well, this principal at Blanchard High School, when are we going to hold him accountable for his actions? He's a schoolyard bully. All he wants to do is destroy the school. He's never there. You allow him to occupy buildings and do what he want to do. The building had a wall fall in it, and he know it didn't have proper CO, and he still did it. And he still has his job up to this day. When are we going to hold them accountable? When are we going to hold him? When are we going to hold all these other administrators accountable for what they do? Just recently, the other day, they had a gas leak at the school. There was only 1 administrator at the school during the first bell. When are we going to hold them accountable at that school for their actions? Who's going to speak up for these students? It's time that we have a change at Blanchard High School. I'm asking that you not fire him. I'm asking that you reassign him if he's principal of the year and Dr. Johnson and he has all these credentials. Assign him to a different school and send a new administrator over to our school, because it's time out for the games at our school. And Mr. Ronci, while I have a few seconds later, it's sad that I couldn't schedule a meeting with you. You told your secretary you don't want to entertain a meeting with me because I'm the type of person that I'm not going to keep my mouth closed.
Thank you very much. May I please have Tyzovis Bell? Did I pronounce that right?
No, he was warranting me over his 3 minutes, but he couldn't make it.
He wasn't able to
Because
make it.
it was last minute.
Got it. Thank you. Christina Brazil?
Good morning, board. Afternoon now. Sorry about that. So this morning you were talking about bullying. What is bullying? Is it silencing people out when they're trying to talk to you about something that's of grave concern to them, but yet you don't really want to face it? You don't want to see it. You don't want to know it exists. When kids are bullying each other, why? Is that what this policy that's going forward is going to try to determine first? Why? Why are they angry with each other? Where'd the disappointment come from? Where's the pain coming from? We have to address it. And I heard, of course, this is the United States of America and you're innocent until proven guilty, so the alleged allegation. Okay. Does it have to be an alleged allegation? Can it be something that just happened, that was wrong, and we seen it and we talked about it? There's a culture in Broward County schools. I haven't been around now for a little while. I've stepped away. But I know it still exists. I just heard it from what happened to this gentleman that's I would believe, a volunteer in the community, where we want to only talk about the good stuff, which I love talking about the good stuff. But we have to address the bad stuff before it comes up and harms us in ways that we cannot change. I understand that there's investigations that take place, but I also understand that there's no records to that happen. Now, a few years ago, there was a discussion about 4.9, and then we had our previous SIU chief. There was going to be a computer system in order to look at these things. Are we logging the bullying attempts? Are we logging if it's happening from a principal level, if it's happening from children, if it's happening from volunteers that are saying it's happening, and then what's happening in the teachers' files? Or are we leaving pieces of paper in different schools where we say we did an investigation of handwritten child testimony in folders in places? You need to change the culture quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Parrish. Okay, so that is our list of speakers for today, but it is now 2:45. In order to be able to provide those who did not speak the opportunity at 3 o'clock, what I'd like to do is just, I guess, we'll step away for 15 minutes, and then we will come back. I'm sorry. Okay, she was not on my list. So Ms. Pierpont is here? Okay.
And Madam Chair, just for
Yes.
clarification, the updated paper that we have, speaker number 5 was withdrawn and speaker number 9 was withdrawn.
Correct.
Yes.
And then,
I don't have that.
and Pierpont was added, yes.
So the
So
only,
that isn't the one that I have, so I apologize. So, Anne Marie
the only
Pierpont,
two
would you like to come speak now? Sorry, I don't have, that's not on my list. Could someone give me an updated list? That's great, thank you.
there are only 2 other people on the list that
And I was told that
didn't
Ronnie
speak.
Flournoy had withdrawn.
Okay.
So that's why I did not call his name. Otherwise, I have everyone else on the list. So, Ms. Pierpont, thank you very much. Sorry about that. I didn't have you on the list, so.
No, that's more than fine. I wear multiple hats, so I understand that sometimes things get missed. I have 2 focuses today, and I'm going to try and watch the clock and separate them out. Number 1 is the bullying concern. I happen to agree with a number of previous speakers that I lived in St. Lucie County for 20 years, and I was on the task force that originated bullying complaints and how to handle that. And we used Broward County Schools as an example, as a model, and used your documentation and used your verbiage, and you were at that time the leader. I don't see that anymore because I don't see a database that is able to collect all information. You have one process for children and another process for adults. And I've sat with teachers who have tried to fill out bullying and complaint forms about other teachers, about parents, about community members, about anything. And it's just not easy for teachers to be heard. And I don't know where that repository is. So I would like more information. More importantly, last night, I went to visit a lovely lady who is one of our BTU stewards, an ESP at Miramar Elementary School. And she is losing her battle to breast cancer. And I just want to put on the public record yet again how hard our ESPs work and how absolutely essential this woman is to her community and to her school. And Miss Nicole White is a wonderful, kind, religious, passionate person who deserves all of our respect and kindness. And I just want to wish her family the best. I know her daughter has attended Hallandale High School, and I know, having seen her family last night, that if we could all lift that one employee in our heart today, it would be a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we now actually have addressed all of our speakers, our listed speakers, and so with that, the scheduled order of business for the school board operational meeting of the school board of Broward County, Florida has been completed, and seeing no obligation, I now adjourn our meeting. Thank you.